We're live anyway. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Am I coming in all right? A little close to the mic here. Hello, how you all doing? Well, couple of quick announcements before we really get started. Unfortunately, due to a last minute issue, last minute conflict, Jazzy can't make it to the stream. If you were here for Jazzy, very sorry about that. But hopefully, I will do as a good substitute since I am, of course, Anthony, the one running the stream. Hello, how you all doing? Okay. Now that we're getting started here, I do want to bring up a few key things. I'm just going to let a few people filter in as we get started here. First and foremost, however, I think we should discuss the big reason we're doing a Pokemon stream at all, and that is due to the recent announcement regarding Rachel Lillis, the voice actress who played Misty. Oh, hello there. Misty and Jessie and Jigglypuff and countless others in the classic Pokemon dub. Recently it was revealed that she is dealing with a very aggressive let me move my form of breast cancer, and I've linked the GoFundMe in the page. We're currently nearly triple what they initially want us to what Rachel Lewis's family wanted people to fundraise, and just it's been a great response, but it can always be more. Recently, they're trying to get a service that can take care of Rachel full time because apparently the breast cancer has become so severe that it is affecting her ability to walk. So if you can donate, that would be fantastic. But again, it links in the description. It's very unfortunate, but this stream is in tribute to Rachel Lillis, though thankfully we're going to be talking something a little less depressing. We're going to be talking Lily Orchard, something way less depressing. So unfortunately it's very, very upsetting what happened with what's going on with Rachel Lillis, and we hope for the best. We hope the treatment can be found and that it can take care of her. Now, Lily Orchard. This is going to be my first solo takedown of one of her videos because she is a trip and a half. If this opening's a little slow, just because I want people to start filtering in, Lily Orchard does have opinions on everything. I just saw that comment in chat. Yes. Now. Yeah, I know. It's really awful with Rachel Lillis. I saw that yesterday, and it was just horribly depressing. Like, for someone who grew up with Pokemon, someone who, was, someone who was, like, young, I was, like, what, 8, 9 when I started watching Pokemon? That was, it's like a voice of a childhood, and, it's very heartbreaking to hear that. I've never met Rachel Lillis, but I know people who have, and they say she's lovely, and just hearing that she's going through this is just absolutely depressing. My talent doing streams. Well, don't worry about that. It's not, I don't know anything about that. But I do know that I will be able to hold down the fort for Lily Orchard. Last time I did a solo stream, this is kind of funny. I talked so much and so without pause, I actually hurt myself. That's what the last few streams have been with people, because I actually hurt myself doing the previous streams by talking so much and without pausing for breath. So, gonna make sure with this stream, pause for breath, and come with a good beverage. So, Lily Orchard. We've done 2 Lily Orchard videos previously. I do not believe we can do the full 6 hours in one stream. I may actually explode or collapse from the strain, but we'll get through as much of it as we can. I'm guessing we'll probably get through about half of it. Unfortunately, we will need some liquid courage to deal with this nonsense. And that's what this is for. Now, Lily Orchard. Oh, don't worry, you're not late to the stream. We're just getting started. Don't worry, there's plenty of stuff to come around with this one. There's going to be the stream that keeps on going. So mainly we covered Lily Orchard's videos on redemption arcs, on episodic shows versus serialized shows. And I've come to realize a few things about Lily Orchard that is very depressing. She doesn't seem to have a big grasp on the fiction that she's discussing, and she seems to make a lot of assertive statements that kind of say things that don't really mean anything. It's a whole big thing. We're not doing the whole 6 hours. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I see your liquid courage and raise you, Cody. Okay. When will it start? Well, right now. Might as well. No time like the present, right? Now. Let me move my face. Move that. Here we go. No. Move my face. There we go. Excellent. Cool. That way you can see the screen and there's nothing obscuring anything. Taking this up on a monster too, but breaking it up into segments and not live like crazy other person. Yeah, no. So it's going to be tough to watch the whole thing. I'm probably going to watch it in chunks. But let's see what we can do. You get the PC update in YouTube's UI. It's terrible. I don't know what you mean by that. PC update my YouTube's UI. I'm using OBS, so not YouTube UI. Anyway, so before we get started, a couple ground rules. One, I'm going to keep watching the video until I have a comment. And then I'm going to stop the video, pause, have a reaction. But I am going to try to wait for her to finish a thought before we continue. Thing number two. At no point am I going to discuss Lily Orchard's personal life. I understand there's a lot of controversy, especially regarding her sister. This is not the kind of stream where I'm going to talk about Lily Orchard's life. There are other YouTubers who are far more interested in that than I am. I really just want to talk about Lily Orchard. Let me move my mic slightly. I really want to talk about Lily Orchard's opinions on media. And the big thing is, couple of questions here coming in. Again, if you want to have questions, please leave a super chat in case I get too distracted. I'll be forced to stop the video and talk to you if you have a super chat. If you leave comments, I should be able to respond, hopefully. Is Gengar my favorite? Yes, Gengar is my favorite Pokemon. I love Gengar. I think I have a Gengar plushie somewhere here. I have a lot of Pikachu plushies. My spouse, most of the plushies that you see behind me are my spouse's. She loves Pokemon. Arguably more than I do. But I do. I've always grown up with Pokemon too. YouTube changed the UI video player for computers. That's annoying. That stinks. I hate when you do that. Anyway, Diglett your favorite. Oh, Diglett's not bad. I like Diglett. Okay, so I think we've done enough beating around the bush. This is a 6-hour video. It's not going to get done if we talk all day. Want me to get started? Let's get started.
Pokemon is old. Really old. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly old it is. With the main series alone that spans 38 games in less than 30 years, it's unbelievably massive in scope. I mean, people say Kingdom Hearts has been going on a long time, but not counting remakes, that series only has 13 games, and when you really think about it, only 7 are required. Pokemon has been around—
Okay, so that's another thing too. I recently watched a video where Lily Orchard, was sponsored one of the Lily Orchard's videos on Kingdom Hearts. All the Kingdom Hearts games are required. There's a lot of story in Kingdom Hearts. It's not like you can just skip things. You just skip past the cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. I don't know what you do. You're going to miss a big chunk of the plot. So I don't know what to tell you there. This time, just you reacting to. Yep. It's just me reacting to this video. Anyway. Okay, cool.
Longer than some of you have been alive. It's a more common household name than Mickey Mouse. I've grown up with Pokemon just as much as I've grown up with other game franchises. But the question is, how do they actually hold up? Pokemon as a franchise is steeped in nostalgia. It's a common sentiment that your favorite generation is the first one you played. Heated discussions about which—
That's not true. My favorite generation is Johto, and that was the second generation I played. The first game I played was Pokemon Yellow. I love Johto. In part because you can go back to Kanto afterwards. It's a cool, complete game. Anyway.
Which generation was the best can get dominated by the generations that marked themselves a generational divide. But how much of that is based on things that just don't exist anymore? Many of these games have features that don't work and take far too much time to really dig into, and which you needed to enjoy the game already to get the most use out of. See, when people talk about the Pokemon games, I feel they tend to get bogged down in the features or the memories. Nostalgia is a very powerful tool, especially with some of the mid-gen games. To hear some people talk, for instance, you would be forgiven for thinking that Generation 1 was this magical experience that changed people's lives. But in reality, it was just the first open-world game on a handheld console. To hear people—
that's not true. I don't think it is the first open-world game in a handheld console. They were JRPGs before this, Lily. I forget, what was the timeline with Link to the Past? That was Not Link to the Past. Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening. That was Game Boy Color, I believe, right? And besides, Pokemon, I mean, open world RPG, even then, it's not even like open world. It's more like just a big map you travel. I mean, it's kind of open world. But I wouldn't think it was open world. Anyway, let's keep going. So comments, Jazzy had a last minute thing. She couldn't make it. She's very sorry. Personal issue. I can't really get into it. But that's that. Okay, so a couple games here. Pokemon, Johto's best gen, Unova's best region. Yeah, Unova is really good. I love Unova as a region. Crystal is your first game. Crystal's a great one to start with. Red, Yellow, a lot of good ones here. Link's Awakening was on Game Boy, and it had a DX port, the Game Boy Color. Yeah, so that's it. That was another open world game right there, Link's Awakening. But I don't think that Lily Orchard is much of a... Again, to make a big assertive statement about like the history of games as a whole, it's not really easy to do. You're going to miss a few entries if you're focused mainly on a few different franchises. But yes, so Jazzy will unfortunately be unable to make this stream comments. I'm very sorry. She had a last minute thing. Couldn't be avoided. She sends her regards. But unfortunately, the show must go on, as they say.
Talk, you would think the Unova games had this deep, rich story that delved into complicated, mature topics. But in reality, it's actually a story about the very weak premise of, well, I sure do love opinions. And yeah, it's kind of a you had to be there bit.
What? Lily, what are you talking about? It's one of the better Pokemon game plots. Like, between N alone, it's like a much... I mean, it's not like super deep. We're not talking like it's not like, not Shadow of the Colossus here, but it's a pretty good plot. I don't know. Link's Awakening was 93. So yeah, 3 years before Red and Green, you had Link's Awakening, which was also an open world, not really an RPG, but like an adventuring game. And also those Final Fantasy Game Boy games, the really easy one. Mystic Quest, is that what they were? Anyway.
But my question is, can you still play these games without the nostalgia today when all you have is the main game, the competitive scene is dead, and half the features don't work anymore? Can you still play Gen 3 without friends to record mix with? Can you play Gen 4 without friends to crawl around the underground with? These games still have a main storyline and a progression path. Does that part hold up on its own?
Yes.
And most important, did it ever hold up at all?
Yes.
Do these games hold up as RPGs? That's the premise I'm working through. How does Pokemon hold up as a game, rather than a loose collection of memories? Well, in this monstrous nightmare project I've tentatively called a video, we're about to find out. This is a complete retrospective on Pokemon.
So she's going to be a video game reviewer right now, it sounds like. Is she going to go... Now, here's the thing. I'm hoping that what she does is... And she won't, because I know Lily Orchard works at this point. I've done enough of these to figure it out. What she should be doing is going through game mechanics, seeing how difficult the game is, how interesting, how many secrets they are, if it's clear, if it's compelling, what have you. But I can guarantee you right now what's going to end up happening is she's going to come up with 25 different complaints that don't actually add up, and nothing's going to get done. Let's see how it goes. We don't know where. Again, maybe I'm wrong. She could be wrong. Oh, and by the way, Wait, what? My boyfriend? He's like... Isn't Gary like 10? No. Now, when Sabrina comes up, there you go. Sabrina was great. I think Sabrina was an awesome character. I love Sabrina. Anyway. But what I was going to say was, when she's right, I will give her credit. When she is wrong, or when I disagree, rather, I will criticize it. Starring the guy who won't shut up about fight. Come on, don't do Silver dirty like that. Silver's a good egg. Silver, okay, he's not a good egg. He did steal Pokemon from Professor Elm. But, like, Silver, he was screwed from the beginning. His dad was, like, Giovanni. He was kind of, like, dumped out there. His father abandoned him. Come on. Yeah, that's good. Okay, look, that was a funny joke. I'll give you that. That was funny. I'll give you that. All right, here we go.
Gen 1, the OG, the retro, the God, what are some other flowery words for old? The vintage, there we go. It's in vogue these days to kind of trash on Gen 1 for its glitches and lack of content and oversaturation of modern Pokemon and
I'm sorry. The glitches are not something you trash on. Those are a selling point. The glitches of Gen 1 are great. You know how much... Okay, this is something a lot of younger audience members probably don't realize, even if they're like even 5 years younger. When Gen 1 first came out, there were very few guides, there were a lot of rumors, and all these glitches that exist in the game. So, saying nowadays, oh, if you don't talk to the guy who teaches you how to catch Pokemon, then fly to Cinnabar Island, and just surf up and down the coast until you find a mysterious new Pokemon, people would think you're nuts. They wouldn't. No one would say, "Oh, that's not. You can't catch a new Pokemon by doing that whole process." Because of a system of glitches in the game, you can encounter Missing No that way due to like a couple different weird circumstances in game. And there are other glitches like that, like Glitch City, Missing No, and so a lot of people, because these glitches did exist, or the rare candy glitch, because these real glitches did exist, kids were easily convinced there were other secrets in the game, like the truck outside the SS Anne, Bill's garden with the Pokegods out behind his cottage, right down to the point where early sprites of Meryl, before Pokemon the first movie came out in America, people were calling that Peekaboo. There were a lot of rumors back then. There's a real mysterious element to Pokemon the first generation that these glitches provided. And because these glitches existed, it really forced kids to believe anything was possible with these games, which I think was so interesting. It's something that's kind of lost today when you have all these day one guides that tell you how to get everything. They data mine the game to find all the information. Back then, there wasn't really any data mining. So it was a very interesting time, I think, for Pokemon playing, I believe. Missing No tattoo. Oh, you should get Missing No tattoo. I would love that. I'd love to get Missing No tattoo. Are you kidding? Anyway, these janky Pokemon sprites. I love them.
terrible artwork and messed up.
Your first Pokemon was Gale of Darkness? Oh, that's great.
Approach to game balance and excuse plot and simplistic antagonists and the fact that it's not on the DS. Oh fuck, I wasn't supposed to say that one out loud. But I found that the trashing is done without merit, or at least from a very wrong-headed place. Most arguments against Gen 1 cite the lack of tertiary features, the lack of a story, and the bugs. But personally, most of those are a positive, not a negative. It might not have a story, but having played the games that have one, honestly, I'm glad it doesn't. I'm glad there's still a Pokemon game out there, as flawed as it is, that just lets you go on your own adventure. It's something I feel Pokemon has gotten too far away from as the years go on. It's hard to introduce Gen 1 because its main selling point is that it was the first. Nothing in the games has remained only in those games. All of its mechanics are just the baseline mechanics of every Pokemon game. So let's just jump right into it and get this ball rolling. So in Gen 1, we start off getting to name our rival because his grandfather can't remember his grandson's name. Actually, wait, I can't believe I'm already making a tangent, but isn't it weird that between this and him asking you your gender in the Gen 3 remake, the latter became more memed on? Gen 3 adds gender select and the weird
Actually, Gender Select was back in Crystal, Lily. That was back in Gen 2. You could do gender. I mean, not in Gold and Silver, in Crystal, certainly. That's the big thing with Crystal. And I feel Crystal as a character design is one of the coolest trainer character designs personally, but I digress.
Weird parody webcomics come out in full force. Honestly, Professor Oak was ahead of his time. He doesn't assume. Trans ally Professor Oak. Can't say the same for the manual, though. Oh yeah, name.
Okay, I'll give Lily a point. That was pretty clever.
My rival Sketchy. My mom tells me to look for Professor Oak, and when I go to check the grass, because naturally that is the first place anyone would look, he comes out of my house, so I guess he was hiding in the closet. Are you my dad? He takes me to his lab where Sketchy's waiting for the both of us and lets me choose a Pokemon. I chose Bulbasaur, because it's correct. Sketchy chose a fire type, because of course he did.
You know, I can't argue with you on that one, Lily. Bulbasaur is the correct option. God, why am I agreeing with her so much here? This isn't good. This is very bad, actually. I'm a little worried how this review's going to go if I'm agreeing with her on Bulbasaur. Anyway.
And then he wants to fight. Wouldn't be Sketchy if he didn't want to compete in something I just picked up that day, so of course he beats me. Should have gotten the suspicious potion first. Whatever, I got that and a free one from the salesman. Dude, you're the worst salesman ever. Went to the mart and got deputized into a special delivery service. This place is very trusting. How do you know I'm not going to steal it? I took it back to Professor Oak, so I guess he really did know. He gives me a Pokedex and tells me to fill it. By myself, I am 10. And now I'm completely off the leash. Record time, actually. If there's one thing about Gen 1 that still holds up, it's the fact that it quickly lets you off the choke chain to let you play play the game. Even the catching tutorial is optional. If you don't know how to catch Pokemon, you can ask this guy, and he actually tells you you can ask him the first time you pass him, but you can say no and carry on with your day. It's really that simple, and I was actually surprised coming back to Gen 1 just how simple it was. I mean, we all talk about how Pokemon should let people skip the catching tutorial, and this becomes a weird debate among some people, but it exists in the first Pokemon game, and I find people forget that this was something we figured out a long time ago. So I snagged myself a Pidgey before moving on to Viridian Forest. In the
wait, you skipping the trainer fight with Red with Sketchy with Baloo? That's interesting. Okay, so she's skipping a few things here. She's skipping the trainer fight with Baloo that you can encounter your rival that you can encounter when you go to the towards Victory Road. And okay, Pidgey, all right. Again. The matter with the old man who blocks your road because he's drunk in the Japanese version, and he gets his coffee that wakes him up. I do love that bit. And yeah, all tutorials should be skippable. Again, so far, Lily has not said anything I fundamentally disagree with. There's things I disagree with, but she hasn't said anything about Gen 1 yet that I think is really bad. This has me worried, because usually she says a lot of weird stuff.
Forest, I was looking intently for a Caterpie, for far longer than seemed usual, actually. I kept running into Weedle instead, so I looked it up, and it turned out that the encounter rate for some Pokemon is different based on the version, not just the exclusives. No, I don't care for that. Should have played yellow version, Lil. I did eventually find a Metapod, though. I really want a Butterfree because I have a bone to pick with literally every single Poketuber on the planet. See, because my generation is kind of dumb, there's this idea that because Butterfree doesn't get stab moves, that makes it useless, that it's an early game Pokemon and you should soon replace. I disagree with that attitude, and I think that attitude is why Whitney and Cynthia made you all into whimpering piles of mulch and made you think you need to trick out a Weavile to even stand a chance. Also, Butterfree is literally perfect. Look at her. She is baby.
Okay. Butterfree's all right. I like Butterfree. I always train a Butterfree in the early game, but then replace her with like an Alakazam later in the late game, or him, whatever. Whatever the gender of the Butterfree is. In Red, Yellow, and Blue, there were no genders for Pokemon back then. Butterfree's all right. I like Butterfree. Not my favorite bug though. I think you can do a really good Butterfree with like the whole sleep powder, put them to sleep and then plow them down kind of approach. But I do like Butterfree's I think Butterfree has Psybeam in Gen 1. I think. I'm not, or was it later? I'm not sure. Anyway.
Moving on to the first gym, and you know what? I kind of admire it. Brock even says at the start that his whole gimmick is defense, and unless you open with Squirtle, it's not going to be a straight one-shot. But there's something clever here. See, Brock's Onix uses Bide, a move that relies on taking damage, and it can very easily fuck you over if you feed it. A lot of people have pointed out that Bide is pretty useless because it gives the enemy an opening to set up status moves. But that's the beauty of it. That's what the game is trying to convince you to do. As early as the first gym, the game is teaching you that status moves are the way to go. And for a Pokemon that is as defensive as Onix and has as low attack as Onix, Bide is a really good move to have. Well, it's not good in competitive, Lily. Yeah, but competitive has always been an afterthought. And I'm not talking about post-game, I'm talking about game. That's why I'm doing it this way. Anyway, that aside was...
So, I don't agree with Lily's argument here. There are multiple ways to tackle Brock as a trainer. Saying there's only one strategy that the game teaches you, I think, is incorrect. There's multiple strategies to tackle in this game. And I think by just saying, oh, this is the one way of doing it, that's not the best way of doing it. Because if you have a Pidgey and you teach him some flying moves, this gym's really easy. Squirtle's a good one. But again, like, their status moves, that's one approach you can take, but to say that's the only strategy you're going to employ, I don't like that. I don't think that's correct. Again, I'm not really in the competitive scene of Pokemon. I'm more in the game version itself. But, like, status moves are not the only way to beat Brock. I usually would beat Brock in a couple of moves because I use the right moveset. You know? You talk about stat weaknesses. You talk about vulnerabilities. That's what you kind of have to exploit to play this. But, again, it's teaching you matchups. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
to cover the fact that all I really did was chip them down with Leech Seed. First badge acquired, and Metapod was just a little bit from evolving, so I had to go take out another Weedle, which felt a little anticlimactic, honestly, but whatever. The important part is I have a Goral, who knows 0 new moves. Oh, god damn it! Mount Moon is the second dungeon in the game, and the first point of no return. After you clear it, it's impossible to get back to Pewter City until you unlock access to Diglett's Cave in Vermilion. Mount Moon is your first introduction to Team Rocket, a group of Pokemon thieves that are plundering the mountain for Clefairy and fossils. They're all over the dungeon, but in truth, you only have to fight maybe 3 or 4 to get through, as they are actively blocking your path. This is an interesting decision because it means you get to decide how much you want to care about Team Rocket. Are you going to go through the process of stopping every grunt for the XP, or just take the ones that actively get in your way? That sounds like a weird thing to praise, but later games don't let you show this level of indifference to their evil teams. Toward the end, I picked up the Helix fossil because I'm a cringy bitch who thinks internet memes are funny. Coming into Cerulean is where you find your first mandatory rival battle. You know, there's an awful lot of debate about the whole mean rival v friendly rival dichotomy, but if I could take a moment to have a hot take, I don't think Blue is a mean rival. I know much of Pokemon fandom is on the internet, and people on the internet think making friends is hard, but Blue and Red always seem to me like really close friends. Blue can come off like a smarmy asshole, but I mean, is 10. His dialogue always comes off more like good-natured slagging, like the two are always competing with each other, but in a fun way. I mean, his establishing character moment is effectively him saying, "Last one to complete the Pokedex is a rotten egg," and his catchphrase, "Smell ya later," is just "see ya later" with a different sense. And when you're 10, you think that's the height of comedy. And he's right, that is the height of comedy. Look at his act.
I don't know if I agree with you, Lily, on this one. I don't know if I agree with this one, because your rival in Red and Blue is arrogant. He is cocky. That's his whole thing. In fact, his arc in Gold and Silver is reflecting on the fact that, wow, I was a cringy little kid. That wasn't cool of me. I was inconsiderate. I didn't think of my Pokemon's needs. And like, when he's the one who loses. I mean, if you believe the Levaticate theory, he's seen he's seen making like comments and snarky comments in a literal cemetery in Pokemon Tower. Listen, I see the idea that he's like, you're like a goofy friend type, but I would never consider Blue friendly. He's a smarmy little like kid. He's a brat. He's a very talented brat, but he's a brat. He's not a... I don't know what friends you've had, Lily, but this is not friendship level stuff. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that take. I'm going to pour one of those for me on this one. This is going to be a long video, I think. I have water on standby, so I'm not going to rely on this for too much longer. Anyway, I don't like this take.
Actual dialogue in the game itself. He slags you off quite a bit, but never too much that it becomes unreasonable. He's a sore loser, but he talks to the player and gives them information like a kid going, "Hey, guess what I found? You should go check it out." I have no problem believing these two are friends. In fact, this is the most believable rival friendship in the entire series because the two of you are in competition, but it's clearly a friendly one. I honestly don't even know why the term rival even exists. Most people in real life don't have rivals, much like how most people don't have enemies. I know the cartoon wrote Gary as an actual bully and full of himself rich kid, and I think people let that color their perception of Blue as a character. Then again, I have also noticed that people on the internet today are extremely touchy in regards to someone else simply seeming pompous. Internet dwellers treat arrogance like it's the single worst sin imaginable, and so I'm not surprised a lot of people took it weirdly personally when Blue slags the player off. We often blame children for...
What are you talking about, Lily? What are you talking about? Like, yes, most people don't have rivals in real life. Rivals are goofy and silly and like over-the-top concepts. But it's a video game. You're going to have a rival to compete with to kind of be as like a marker to see your improvement. And the fact that he's always ahead of you at every single gym. Like, I get what Lily is saying, but like, I also just fundamentally disagree with it. He's bullying you as a kid. He is mocking you. He is rude to you. He is disrespectful to his grandfather. He tells his sister, he tries to make sure you don't get a map so you have no idea where you're going in the world. His sister gives you a map because she's like, "Oh my God, my brother's a jerk. Here's the map." Like, he chooses a Pokemon with a type advantage against you because he knows specifically it will be better than yours. Like, that's not friendship. And he's arrogant. He's like impatient. Gary is actually less of a jerk than the rival is. And it's clear, as it's mentioned in the game, that he does not care about his Pokemon. He just sees it as a path to victory, a path to win. And like, keep in mind, when you encounter him, I think it was Slivko. I think it's Slivko. He doesn't seem to have any care about Team Rocket. He's very self-centered. He does not care about anything outside of his specific periphery. And in regards to arrogance, Lily, are you talking about yourself? Because, like, arrogance is frustrating to deal with. An arrogant person is a pain to deal with. Are you referring... I don't know... A lot of people call Lily arrogant. I don't know if I agree with that. I think... No, there's an arrogance there. What am I talking about? But, no, yeah, anyway, let's keep going.
For the decisions of Game Freak, like the rivals' characterization or the hand-holding the games are played with. But the truth of the matter is that people my age have been complaining about these games being too hard for a long time. Like, it wasn't Gen Z that made Whitney and Cynthia into a meme, or complained about a non-issue like the HMs. I honestly think one of the reasons characters like Charon and Bianca are so popular isn't because they have compelling character arcs, but because they kiss the player's feet. And I think it's largely people my age who like that about them. They often say they don't, but I think that's just social desirability bias. Every gamer has a praise kink, no matter how hard they try to convince you otherwise. Lily, stop bringing BDSM into Pokemon. It works as a metaphor, alright? I like Blue, and I like...
First off, regards to praise kinks, I'm not going to comment on that one, because that's a whole other world of discussion, and I don't want to open myself up to that can of worms. But that being said, Bianca's a great character because she's a lovely character. She fits that moe kind of aesthetic. It's not that she kisses the player's butt. It's that you see her start off as this kind of vulnerable character who grows and becomes a stronger person over the course of the game. She has an arc. The rival Blue has an arc as well, but like, save Bianca for later. Bianca's a really decently written character. And so is Blue. I think Blue's a really interesting character too, and I especially like how he's played in Johto. How he is that kind of more self-reflective, kind of like, wow, I really, was on top of the world for a few moments, and I was brought crashing down at that moment. And that really forced me to self-reflect and look at my actions. I think Blue's arc from Red and Blue to Johto is really interesting. To Gold and Silver, I should say. I don't like Lily's read on the rival so far. I think it's very weirdly sympathetic in a way that doesn't make sense.
I like him specifically because he comes off like a more genuine friend than the sycophantic warbling of later rivals. Anyway, after helping Bill get out of his fursuit and get...
Lily, do you think friends are supposed to make fun of people? Like, and humiliate them? Like, friends are... They can bust your chops, and that's great. I love that. I do wish that the friendly characters in Pokemon were more, busting your chops kind of in that. But, like... There's a difference between busting your chops and like antagonizing. I don't get Lily's read on Blue. I don't get it.
Getting a cruise ticket, we're finally able to challenge Misty. Actually, wait, was the gym even blocked off? I don't remember. Whatever, Misty is a water type trainer, so Ivysaur's got this in the bag. Just constantly whipping those stars. Whip them good. See, I told you it worked as a metaphor. Second badge acquired. Vermilion City has only two things of note: the gym and the SSN. Oh yeah, also Diglett's Cave. The SSN is...
What about the bike voucher and the Pokemon Club? And... in Yellow, you can get Squirtle at Vermilion City Gym. I almost said Viridian Gym there for a second. There's a lot of stuff in Vermilion City. I like Vermilion City.
Is required to get to the gym, and it's crawling with optional trainers. You could just go right to your rival and the captain if you want, but I want that juicy XP, so I barged into every cabin and beat up everyone's pets like the completely reasonable person I am. I don't have a problem, fuck you. Now that I've cut, I can open the gym where... Oh, fuck, the trash puzzle. Nope.
This is the worst puzzle in the game.
Nope. Oh, hey! Okay, so I'm through the trash puzzle and I caught a Diglett, which means I win. Your X speed can't save you now. Third badge acquired. Now that I have the third badge, I can go north to Saffron City and then west to Celadon. Actually, no, I can't because the guard is too thirsty to let me through. What I can actually do is go back to Cerulean City, take a roundabout route through this winding cliffside, go through a dangerous pitch black tunnel, cut through a haunted oubliette, go through another underground tunnel, and then...
Wait. Oh yeah, that's right. You have to go to Sapphire.
and into Celadon. Just a small detour. I'd almost forgotten just how dreary the mid-game is. After you leave Rock Tunnel, your next task is to go through 2 back-to-back rocket areas, 3 if you decide to hammer out Silphco right away. You can skip the rocket hideout by using a Pokédoll on Marowak, but for sake of this video, I didn't. And going through the track of Team Rocket's hideout, then Celadon Gym, and then Pokemon Tower is not great. It's too many dungeons and cities with very little overworld to break it up. And this is only compounded by the fact that the next area after this is the very...
What? You think that's the low point? You go to a casino. You get there's like a whole investigation. Like, why is this guy looking at the poster? Why are all these sketchy people in the casino? That's a cool part of the game. You can get an Eevee if you go up to the top of the building and talk to the guy in top of the department store. But you can like, you're missing the. You're really glossing over Pokemon Tower, which is like this really great, iconic part of the game. And the music you're glossing over. You're just gonna gloss. I mean, why would you do Silphco 3? Okay, you gotta go. I don't like any of this. This is frustrating. Yeah, bring back the game corner. I don't get why she doesn't like the quote unquote dungeon areas of these games. That's one of the cool elements. Like, the overworld's nice, but the rocket areas are fun. That is the plot. Before in this video, Lily said that these games didn't have a lot of plot, that they were very plot light. Well, Team Rocket's the plot. It's a crime organization, and you as a child have to uncover what they're stealing. You know, you have to figure out what's going on. There are all these hideouts, these conspiracies, and you're really glossing over your continued rivalry with Giovanni, a character who, you know, kind of just you fight and counter, and he's like this grander than life figure who you fight a few times and you beat, and the argument can be made, oh well, if he's so tough, why is he like? But no, like as we see in Viridian City, he's always taking it a little easy on you. He's never bringing his A game to fight you, the child, until you're ready to face him. And when you face him at his gym at the end of the game, and as all these encounters with Team Rocket as this crime organization, and you have no idea that this whole system of gyms is building up to you finally dismantling a criminal empire that takes over the most important facilities, an underground casino, a major corporation, the boundaries between life and death itself. And you're kind of glossing over the Marowak mother arc, which is a really dark element of the first Pokemon game. Marowak's mother is really heartbreaking, you know, because it's a Pokemon who we know is killed. Death is an important theme in the first generation of Pokemon. And you kind of just glossing over that as like a dungeon you can skip or look over it. I don't like that.
Very long and very interesting area between Lavender Town and Fuchsia City. Gen 1's biggest problem is that it's often unevenly spaced, and a lot of the major areas are clustered in Celadon and Saffron. It's a similar issue I have with Goldenrod in Generation 2. Too much is crammed in here, and you end up spending way more time in this area than you'd ever want to at any other point. I actually slammed out Celadon Gym first, since Pidgeotto and Butterfree needed the easy XP, and since...
It's because they're cities, Lily. It's like a map. Some cities are bigger than others. They're cities, Lily. As opposed to, like, smaller cities, or towns even. Or islands. Anyway. I fear what she's going to do when she gets to the Pokemon Mansion. I hope she read the books in the mansion for all the lore, but, you know.
I was going to be in that basement for a while. Going to the game corner, you beat up the guard and dive into the basement for a series of moving tile puzzles, which, I don't wish to be melodramatic, are the worst fucking things in the game. Not because the movement itself is bad, but because it's so painfully slow. Later games speed this up, but wow, this is cursed. I move through one floor, get the lift key, move through the second, get to the elevator, we meet Giovanni for the first time. Giovanni's thing is ground-type Pokemon, unlike the rest of his team who uses Pokemon that are the easiest in the game to actually get. You know, that actually says something about Giovanni. Like, he went out of his way to import a Kangaskhan for himself, but just drags up whatever can be found on the cheap for all of his grunts. Makes no difference because this capitalist rat's going down. After that, we're headed to Lavender Town, the only real point of interest in this part of the game, which stands out by how bleak and sad the whole place is, and how migraine-inducing the music is because some dick decided, hey, let's make this track really loud and harsh and see how much we can torture the Game Boy speaker. They tortured that poor little speaker until it was begging for more. I mean, mercy. And frankly, I don't think we needed to know what the effects of VR headsets would be if they were focused entirely on your ears, but
You don't like Lavender Town, Lily, huh?
But somebody at Game Freak would apparently disagree. Whoever wrote these tracks owes me some Tylenol. Lavender Town is practically infamous for how sharp of a tonal shift it is, inspiring about 20,000 crappy ghost stories written by kids. But honestly, I think that's about the only real value Lavender Town has. Personally, I always found the Viridian Forest theme to be much creepier, but there's nothing as charming as reading some bad campfire story about the cartridge ejecting itself from the Game Boy at Mach 5 and lodging itself in your throat to punish you for looking at ghosts. Yeah, there's my hot take of the day. Lavender Town is actually kind of shit, and its only entertainment value is kids scaring each other with rumors and creepypasta. Otherwise, it's just another too long dungeon that demonstrates how weak ghosts are to psychic in this game. This part of the
Okay, let's talk. Let's talk for a second. Hey, chat, how's it going? Strap in for a second. We're gonna have a moment right now. First of all, you're wrong. You are wrong, Lily. First and foremost, if I may be so bold, it is a place of mourning. It is a place of sadness. Do you talk to the NPCs, Lily? Do you communicate with them? Do you stop to look at everyone and say them mourning their lost Pokemon? It's not about the creepypastas, whatever, Lavender Town syndrome, whatever. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about that? I don't give a fuck about that. Let's talk about Lavender Town for a second, if I may. First off, one of the longer dungeons, Lily, it's 4 floors. It's not particularly long, and one of those floors is a straight hallway that you walk from point A to point B at. Oh, hang on. Super chat going in right now. Because I'm bored, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan of Black and White, and watching her absolute garbage takes made my blood pressure skyrocket. Now I know how Steven Universe fans feel. Oh, don't worry. If this makes me as angry as I think it's going to, we'll get to those in a moment. Because quite frankly, her takes so far on Gen 1 have been bad. On Black and White, she seems to allude to the fact that it's a bad story, which is garbage already, I might say. It's a great game, Black and White. At least the plot is great. So some mechanical elements I don't particularly care for, but, some of the Pokemon I don't love. But as a game, as a story, I think it's pretty solid. I like Black and White quite a lot. Now, Lavender Town is a huge chunk of Pokemon world building, right? A lot of people argue that Pokemon has become too lighthearted, too cosmic even. Lavender Town deals with life and death. Your Pokemon can die. It teaches you the mortality of Pokemon. And the reason why so many kids were drawn to Lavender Town wasn't just the creepy music. Oh, another super chat. Thank you, Will. What happened in the last 20 minutes? I just got here 5 minutes ago. Well, to quickly summarize, Will, thank you for the super chat. Lily does not like Black and White. She doesn't like stories. She doesn't like Bianca. She thinks that Blue is a friendly rival. She kind of doesn't care about Pokemon's world building in terms of its games, but is upset that you can't. She seems to value the exploration of environments over the exploration of dungeons. She has not at any point mentioned an NPC outside of your rival, and she does not like Lavender Town. Lily, here's the problem, right? Here's your problem with your take. Here's why I'm upset. Because Lavender Town isn't supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be sad. You're right, it is a melancholy area, because Pokemon isn't all fun and games. We see the adventure, we see the joy, we see the amazing types, but we're supposed to learn here that ghost types are, that Pokemon can pass on. And that tragedy, that heartbreak is one of the components of Pokemon that I feel often gets overlooked. There's always that creepy element in game, but it's usually creepy. It's not sad. The Marowak mother shows a Team Rocket is awful, that they will poach and hurt Pokemon, not just steal them, not just harmless. They're actually having a tangible negative impact on the environment itself. So that's your motivation for stopping Team Rocket. They're hurt. They killed a mother. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. And that's a component just to motivate you to stop Team Rocket, that element of emotional duress that you feel. Or at least you should feel anyway, because it's a mother getting killed by the bad guys that you keep encountering and keep glossing over as a diversion. Anyway, so I just agree with you on Lavender Town deeply, and let's see where we go.
The game is open-ended, but it's clear they want you to go in a particular order because the levels of individual Pokemon do not actually compensate for which way you're going. After Erica, Koga and Sabrina have huge spikes in levels because the game assumes you're going to have gone through 3 entire dungeons before reaching them, and you'll have had to have gone through at least 2 of them to get to them anyway. You're not getting to Fuchsia City without the Pokeflute, and you're not going to Sabrina without Silphco. Sure, you can do them in any order if you're determined enough, but you still have to do all of them, and there is a very strict recommended order right on the trainer card. After the gauntlet that is Celadon and Lavender Town, you get to go through the best route in the game, Route 12. It takes you through a bridge, over a coastline, down into a fence path, and then back onto the main road to Fuchsia City. It's the longest route in the game, packed to the brim with trainers, and there's no rest stop at any point. This is one of the few points in the game that feels like you're actually traveling. The route is so expansive, and it actually takes a while to get to Fuchsia City. It replicates the arduous journey of traveling between towns as best as the Game Boy can. I love this route so much. It really captures what I mean about how Pokemon's difficulty is based primarily on endurance. Seriously, the next time you play a Kanto game, go through this route and fight every trainer without going back to heal at the center. It's an amazing experience. Arriving in Fuchsia City, Butterfree steamrolled through Koga's team with only one minor hiccup requiring a switch out from Pidgeotto. I'm quite happy about that. Butterfree's actually been carrying the entire team since I stopped off in Saffron for Psychic, and I'm feeling very vindicated by this. See, I was watching old PokeTuber videos because that's something I occasionally end up doing, and a common theme for Butterfree in Gen 1 is that she's good in the early game and not very good anywhere else. And like I said, I had a bone to pick about that, so I resolved to keep Butterfree on my party and sweep the game, and so Butterfree turning out to be my best Pokemon is very vindicating. I snagged the items I needed from the...
One fun thing about Pokemon is that you can make any Pokemon useful in your team in the game itself. If you're doing the metagame, you want to pick the best Pokemon for the whole game, and that's different. Butterfree in the meta of the game isn't the strongest Pokemon, but you can beat the game with Butterfree. Like, that's the cool thing about Pokemon that I like. You can just choose your favorites and win if you play right. It's that kind of open-endedness I do enjoy with Pokemon as a whole series.
Safari Zone without much care because I actually don't like the Safari Zone all that much. It was interesting for the rare Pokemon you could find there, but I've already got my team in mind and have no need for anything in there, and not being able to battle them just makes the whole ordeal annoying. This was the area I was least looking forward to, so we're moving on to...
You don't like the Safari Zone? That's one of the most fun parts of the game. You get to go in, it's different, it changes up the gameplay mechanics. It's cool. I love the Safari Zone. And you get Dratini, which leads to one of my other favorites, Dragonite. I do love Gengar, he's my boy, but, you know, Dragonite, he's a cool dragon. Love Dragonite.
Damn it, that's even worse. There's a problem in Saffron City in that most of the city is on lockdown until you clear out Team Rocket from Silphco. And I'll be honest, I think Silphco is the worst area in the entire series. It is a labyrinthine dungeon that you have to use these extremely awkward teleporters to zip from room to room until you find the card key, and it's an intense maze of locked doors, teleporters, and just the worst kind of rocket fights in the entire damn series. And I am including Gen 2's radio tower in that. Oh my fucking god. If you know exactly where to go, or cheated and looked at the map like I did, because fuck this dungeon, it's not long, but if you don't, like most people don't, oh my god, this is arduous. You're lost in this maze, having your resources chipped away on more and more fights, and there's a fight with Sketchy right before Giovanni. This dungeon and Pokemon Tower both have places to heal mid-dungeon. No other area in the game has that. I think that's the point you can say the dungeon is too big. And I'd be fine with how big it was if it wasn't so dull, if there was a clear forward progression, but this can be the shortest place in the game if you know which teleporter actually gets you to where you want to go. It's this one. See, I actually quite liked Rock Tunnel. No one trainer battle is going to really challenge you outside of the boss.
You like Rock Tunnel more than Pokemon Tower and Silphco. You like the empty tunnel of rocks that you have to use Flash to go through. I think it's Flash, right? Rock Tunnel? Yeah. You like that more than you like an actual progress to stop a bad guy with a goal. They've held the city hostage. You get to see significant change in the world around you when you complete it. You like that less than the Rock Tunnel. You like Rock Tunnel more than Pokemon Tower, a game that forces you to confront the existential dilemmas of life itself in the Pokemon world. Is it because there's no plot? There's no progression? You don't feel a sense of progress when you finish Rock Tunnel. You get from point A to point B. There's no sense of completion, no sense of fulfillment. You don't get a sense of, wow, I made a difference in the world. Oh my goodness. Ugh. I'm gonna have to make sure I space it out with water. It's gonna be dangerous. I just drink whiskey every time I get upset by this.
Boss fights, but instead you're draining PP, losing health, running out of healing items, and there's no restoration or mart until you reach the next town. Rock Tunnel actually has a Pokemon Center right outside because it is a gauntlet, something Gen 2 did as well with Union Cave. And as you get through, there's more and more trainers in your way, dwindling your resources. But because Rock Tunnel is mostly linear, you're always making forward progress, and while losing can restore your health in PP, it costs half your money to do it. This, incidentally, is why you can't buy PP restoring items. It's why PP exists at all. This game is very unforgiving to your PP. Lily, knock it off. This is actually a really good approach to gameplay. Most trainers don't have more than 1 or 2 Pokemon, but you're not just up against one trainer, you're up against all of this. But Silphco has more trainers than Rock Tunnel. It's got a layout designed to confuse you, and it's right in the middle of a city, so nothing is stopping you from taking the elevators to the lobby and going to the Pokemon Center and healing up. It's just the worst dungeon in the entire game. I fucking despise it. People complained about Rock Tunnel because you needed to use Flash or wander around blindly, and we'll get into HMs in a little bit because I actually like them, but it's actually very well designed, a very meaty challenge for where it is in the game, and very satisfying to get through, especially since it's a transitory period of the second act of the game. There's no cheating through it. You have to go through it in this one direction, which means this one direction is very interesting. Oh fuck, that was another H-bomb quote, wasn't it? Silphco is just obtuse for the sake of obtuse, and can be effectively skipped over if you're crafty enough. So it's either unbearably grueling or terminally short and easy with no middle ground. And the gym afterward also features...
Okay, let's stop a second before she gets to Sabrina, my girl Sabrina, for a second here. Okay, so her argument about Rock Tunnel being a gauntlet. Okay, that's a fair prop in favor of Rock Tunnel. Okay, but the problem is that those aren't really connected to Silphco. They're different types of dungeons, we'll say. The building is very different in Silphco. You have to... Yes, you can go backwards, sure, but because of the teleportation system, it can be a little disorienting. It's meant to mess with you a little bit. It's meant to mess with your perception. It's meant to be an unclear maze forward. And you may think, oh, this is the right situation, but then you get caught in a problem. You can cheese the whole thing, sure, if you know which teleport to go to and you don't want to get any of the extra items that you can collect. Again, that's the thing. You can also heal. You can heal in Silphco. That shows you don't have to do it all at once. It's more interesting. It's more dynamic. You can choose the level of challenge you want for Silphco. And if you're like me, someone who went through the entire game and made sure you fought every trainer in all these main sections for the EXP, then yeah, it's fun. And you get rewarded for that with experience, with higher levels. So when you get to Sabrina, who has very powerful Pokemon, you are ready. Do you think she's going to talk about any of the Gen 1 gym leaders when she skipped over everyone else? Yeah, it's a fair point. She's kind of skipped over all the challenges of the gyms. It's like, oh, I beat the gym leader. It's cool. I beat this one. I beat that one. But like not specifically how do you feel about them. Because the gym leaders in Gen 1 are really cool. With the exception of Koga, I actually really do like all the gym leaders for one reason or another. Koga, I just can't stand him. And I don't get why he was an Elite Four member in Gen 2. Like, I like the idea of a gym leader advancing that way, but I just don't like Koga being that one. Anyway, yeah, it sounds just like a hard challenge. Yeah, I just read your comment, Max Chloe. Yeah, no, it just feels like Mix Chloe. I'm sorry, I thought it was Max. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it just I don't know. The gym leaders are fun. Okay, so you got Brock, who is your starter guy. You know, he is a firm foundation. I know the anime with Brock and Misty. And again, just a reminder, if you haven't donated to the GoFundMe for Rachel Lillis, the link is in the description. This GoFundMe is there to help her family pay for treatment for her aggressive breast cancer. Again, Misty's fun. She's really, really cool. And those just two very iconic gym leaders in general. Lieutenant Surge, he fought in the war, man. He fought in the war. You know, this gives you all this idea, this insight into the Pokemon world. There's war. There's combat. There's this grander history outside of yourself. It really forces you to look at the Pokemon world as an extensionist. It shows that this world is lived in ways you haven't even experienced yet. Erica, really beautiful gym. Really, especially in the later gens when they update the greenery. There's a real sense of distinction there. Sabrina, again, incredibly powerful, intense, Blaine is a cool gym leader. They're all really cool gym leaders with cool theming. Anyway.
There's a teleporter pad puzzle that...
And of course, the anime does corrupt our perspective of the gym leaders because the anime did a great job with all the Kanto gym leaders with the exception of Koga, who is the worst. Come and see, but with Pokemon. Oh, I would love to see that. Oh my goodness. Come and see. Anyone in the comments see the movie Come and See? It is a disturbing war film. It's like one of the most upsetting. I've seen like the most extreme horror films you can look up, like Martyrs, a Serbian film, Sallow. Come and See is one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen in my life. It is intense.
Again, you either try every pad and get lucky, or know exactly where to go. It's no surprise they didn't do this kind of gym puzzle a second time. Now this is the part where I'm supposed to talk about how powerful the psychic type is and how broken and overwhelming it is. Everyone talks about it and how obscenely powerful the psychic types are. Here's the thing though, that's only true in theory. Psychic's power comes from a large variety of stab moves and its two weaknesses either not being coded properly or possessing no moves of decent power. Sure. But one thing we're going to run into later is that the Pokemon community operates as if stab super effective moves are the only things that exist. You remember how I mentioned I had a bone to pick with Poketubers? Well, here it is. This is why Butterfree is often derided as a low tier Pokemon, because she doesn't learn stab moves. But the thing is, other strategies exist. Butterfree might not have stab moves, but she has an array of status moves. Sleep is godlike in this game, and she's one of the earliest sleepers. And you don't need stab to do some pretty meaty damage either way. Neutral attacks are still a thing. Status moves are still a thing. Alakazam might have high special, but his physical defense is in the toilet. And a decent physical move, even if it isn't super effective.
Okay, Lily, why are you using later generation stats for Gen 1 games? This is not the status block for Alakazam in Generation 1. Attack and defense, and I think special attack, special defense, they were mixed in with attack and defense. I think it was special, I believe, was the stat for that. Like, that's not the stat that... Lily, it's a different stat. It's a different stat block, Lily. Oh, my goodness. Also, yeah, so she's talking about, like, how not powerful, but half of her, 2/3 of her party is down. And yes, I've seen a Serbian film, actually. Out of curiosity, honestly. Anyway, that's a whole other story, though. I'll save that for when I talk about horror films.
Effective is going to body the fucker. These Pokemon are overpowered if you're someone who thinks having no weaknesses means you can't be killed, but that's never been the case. We all beat Sabrina as kids after all, and chances are you beat the kid who had Mewtwo. In fact, despite how supposedly powerful psychic types are, Sabrina has never been memed on as heavily as Whitney or Cynthia have been in the past. And shit, Cynthia's Garchomp has a 4x weakness and is still considered brutally difficult even though she has a Pokemon with no weaknesses. The truth of the matter is that Alakazam just doesn't have the moves available to him to really take out his real weaknesses, physical attackers. To be as broken as people claim Alakazam is, he would need a much wider variety of moves, and he's just never really had that. But Gen 1 Psychic types just weren't that broken to begin with. Just use Slash. Like ever. Technically the next area is Seafoam Islands, but let's be honest.
Okay, but Lily, you're forgetting a lot of Pokemon that can use Slash are weak to Psychic type. Like, again, Lily... It wasn't memed on as much because the internet wasn't a thing, Lily. The internet wasn't big at the time when Gen 1 came out. Cynthia was around when the internet was big. Whitney was around when the internet was starting to become big. There were GameSpot forums back then, Lily. Whereas Sabrina was when we were children and didn't have access to the internet. What, you're going to use AOL chat rooms to talk about Sabrina and complain about it? No. But, like, again... Yes, you could use Slash to beat Alakazam. If you're lucky. Right? Like, that's the big thing. Yeah, Psychic types are stronger. They're not invincible. They're not unstoppable. They're just stronger. Excuse me. And the level gap is very powerful, especially if you went out of order in sequence with the gems. And Psychics also have Hypnosis, as comments are pointing out, and Supersonic, which are status effects as well. They can play the status game too. You need to consider a strategy that's effective. Sabrina is one of the first gym leaders in the game that forces you to go, okay, I need to really think about my strategy here. You know, I need to really think about my thought process. And stab moves and all that. That's a good technique you can employ to making sure you hit hard enough to put him down. And again, okay, let's keep going.
When was the last time you actually went through Seafoam Islands? Yeah, I thought so. I certainly didn't. I surfed south from Palatown, you fucking scrub. Out of all the gyms, I think Blaine is my favorite.
So you missed Articuno. You missed one of the coolest optional dungeons in the game. It's not for scrubs. You get Articuno. Like, a great Pokemon. Well, maybe not great in playability-wise, but a really fun Pokemon.
Fire-type Pokemon are rare in damn near every Pokemon game, so...
She's not going to talk about the power plant, is she? Anyway.
Fire-type gym is always a welcome challenge, but his trivia questions were something I always thought was very cute. It's better than maneuvering around gym trainers like someone who's just dropped a really eggy fart and is trying not to be noticed about it. Oh right, but first you have to go through the Pokemon Mansion. You know, I forget about this dungeon every single time I play this game, and then I just spam repels and try not to battle anyone. I feel Pokemon Mansion should be the coolest dungeon, but it's in a city and so suffers from similar issues that Silphco does. The access to a Pokemon Center nearby renders the things that make the dungeons interesting completely moot. 7th badge...
Why do you say that, Lily? And plus, Pokemon, that location is great because of the lore, the elements of the Mewtwo cloning. It informs you about something that's greater lurking just beyond a mysterious dungeon. All right, super chat. Kyle of Bones, thank you so much for leaving a super chat. Is it just me or Lily or half of Lily's review? Is her being a contrarian? Sorry about that. The Lavender Town bit seems like she intentionally glossed over pretty important details about Marowak's mother. Yeah, she is. Lily is by default a contrarian. She wants just to get people angry. She's succeeding to get me angry. So that's so mission accomplished, Lily. You're doing your job correctly. But I digress. The point is she's saying things just to troll and get into elicit a response. And in doing so, she is creating a review that's primarily done to annoy people who like the later generations, who like these more clever mechanics. And again, there are other strategies. Lily is correct that there are other strategies to win, and you don't have to rely on the tried and true methods of the competitive scene to win. But the competitive scene rules exist because of the competitive scene. They exist because of the speedrunners, because of the min-maxers. You don't have to follow their instructions. But if you want to be efficient, you want to do a Nuzlocke, for example, these strategies can benefit you, can help you. They are not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but they are a bit of advice that can benefit you in the long run. But if you're playing the game, you're playing the game. You can do whatever you want. And that's the beauty of Pokemon. But acting like she's breaking the system by not following certain rules, well, that's not really doing anything remarkable. Kids do that. Kids do the whole, I'm going to only use my one Pokemon I got at the start of the game for every fight strategy, and it works just as fine. You can beat the game with a level 100 Charizard if you really just want to use Charizard exclusively. But I digress. Anyway. Okay. I do like Blaine, though. I do like Blaine.
Acquired. Swing back to Viridian, give Giovanni a midlife crisis, then head out for the Pokemon. Actually, hang on. I actually really like Giovanni. He's a much more real villain than any other evil team. He just wants to exploit Pokemon for financial gain. He could just as easily be the Mafia or Amazon. But what I really like is that after the third time you beat him, he just goes...
Wait a second. Just as easily be the Mafia. Lily. He is the Mafia. Like, what do you think Giovanni is? What do you think Team Rocket is? They're the Mafia. They're the mob. They're the Pokemon mob. They're stealing and exploiting Pokemon for financial gain. They're a criminal enterprise. His name is Giovanni, an Italian name. He is the Mafia. Like, yeah, he's also a capitalist because Mafia people are capitalists. Oh my goodness. Lily. Please. You chose the wrong Italian to talk about the Italian Mafia too. Like, I've watched The Godfather 100 times. I know how the Mafia works. Okay, I'm just kidding. But still, Still, it's not even subtle. He's a mob boss. He's a mob enforcer. Like, he's a mob boss and a mob enforcer. Some things you think are obvious. You think, oh, Giovanni's a mob boss. I knew that when I was 7. Anyway, yeah, he's the Tony Soprano. Well, I don't know if he's Tony Soprano of Pokemon. He has his life more together than Tony Soprano, I feel like.
I had my entire empire toppled by a small child. What the fuck is wrong with me? What am I doing with my life? I am a failure of the highest order. And he just quits and goes into hiding and hangs out in a cave for the rest of his life. You humiliated this guy so badly, he had a midlife crisis.
Okay,
and in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you could beat him again and make him even more depressed. He's actually kind of pathetic. I love torturing the elderly. Anyway, after that, and a quick and invigorating run through Victory Road, my points about Rock Tunnel still stand here. I make it to the Elite Four. Lorelei was probably the most difficult of them.
Hang on a second. So she did avoid the power plant and Moltres in Victory Road. Okay, fine. Okay. We're avoiding all the Pokemon. We're avoiding all the optional stuff. I fear when we get to the mysterious dungeon. She's going to skip Mewtwo, isn't she? Yeah.
A bunch simply because ice types are the major blind spot in my knowledge. I know they're weak to fire, but I don't know anything else about how they work. Butterfree swept both Bruno and Agatha. I'll be honest, I didn't think she could do it. 2 of them are rock type, and I thought it would at least be a struggle, but it was a massacre. I love this little bug. And then Lance was swept by Starmie. Yeah, the Elite Four wasn't really much to write home about, honestly. It's one of those challenges that was really cool as a kid for the spectacle, but as a gameplay challenge, it hasn't held up. But that's fine. It's an old game, and frankly, I think the first 4 gens are at a good place difficulty-wise. They're just hard enough to keep your brain engaged, and as a kid, some of these challenges can seem insurmountable, but they really push you to figure out simple problems in your head, which is something kids need to be constantly exercising. It's good for them. Moving on to Sketchy, it was a mostly okay fight. Again, the spectacle is what made it matter, but his Alakazam did get off a cheeky little reflect before I knocked him out, buffing his team against physical attacks, which was uncalled for. In fact, he did knock out more of my Pokemon than I was prepared for. His Exeggutor in particular was a stubborn little bitch. I really wanted to take out his last Pokemon with Butterfree, but alas, it was not meant to be. But Starmie pulled through for me, and it was all good. We're all good. And that's Gen 1. All in all, I think it still holds up. Any ranking of the generations, and I am going to rank them at the end, really ought to have Gen 1 place smack dab in the middle. All the usual obligatory praises about being the trendsetter are one thing, but the real thing that keeps me coming back to it is freedom. Generation 1 is in this weird position with Gen 2 because they're both very freeform games. Starting from Gen 3, but really picking up speed in Gen 4, Pokemon became more linear, more JRPG. Game Freak started to get very pushy. They wanted to start telling you how to play instead of letting you play on your own. The games were more railroaded, more insistent on directing you. Mechanics would be removed for seemingly no reason. Some people claim this started in Gen 6, but it really picked up steam in the DS games. Generation 1 doesn't have this problem. Because the cartridge wouldn't hold enough data, there's no story getting in your way, no pushy attitudes from the devs getting in your way, and just no annoyances. The annoyances in this game mostly just come from roadblocks. I'd forgotten just how padded the mid-game truly is, something I never hear anyone talk about because everyone just focuses on the features, which is what I find is the problem. This is why I wanted to do it this way. I want to focus on the gameplay and not the toys.
But Lily, you're saying you focus on the gameplay, but then ignore the gameplay mechanics. Like you're ignoring tons of gameplay mechanics. You're ignoring entire optional dungeons of the game. There's tons of content you just missed. Just avoid it outright. You avoided Safari Zone. You avoided the Seafoam Islands. You didn't even acknowledge legendary Pokemon. You didn't even acknowledge the power plant, the mysterious dungeon. You didn't talk about any of those. You didn't talk about completing the Pokedex, which is a feasible accomplishment you can do in this game. And again, the idea of the story, yeah, the story is good. It's a good story. It's a simple story, but it's good. It's effective. It gets the job done. But the problem here, Lily, is that what you're doing here is you're talking about gameplay mechanics. I'm looking for the gameplay mechanics. Okay, great, cool. And you say, I don't like the stereotypical stab moves. You can beat the game without stab moves. Okay, great. You can do that. That's fine. That's a feasible thing. But if you're talking about gameplay, you realize the gameplay gets more complex in Gen 2 and Gen 3 and Gen 4. From a gameplay perspective, Pokemon, the first generation, games are the weakest in terms of gameplay because there are a lot of things that they realized we didn't account for. Psychic types, they are abnormally strong. You could cheese the whole game with an Alakazam. Ghost types weren't as effective as they should have been because of mechanical issues. These are issues with the game. The dungeons are simple. Yeah. The gameplay is open-ended. Yeah. Those are good things. But it's not to say the other games aren't, or that a linear game is inherently bad. It's just a different approach to the game. When reviewing anything, you got to consider what the people who make the product, whatever it is, be it a movie, game, book, what is their intention? What are they trying to accomplish? And how well do they effectively do it? Now, Pokemon Gen 1 is very effective at what it tries to do. I think the music, the presentation, all of it are very important. But again, if I'm trying to get to a point here, it's this: that Lily is right now, so far with her first overview of the first game, really oversimplified the experience to a big extent by skipping whole features and complaining about certain dungeons she didn't like, saying it's easy. If you can access a Pokemon Center, it's bad. Which again, it's how you play the game. You're open to just go through the whole thing straight through, which is what I did when I played them more recently. But again,
even with that hurdle to get over, I still prefer the adventure and the openness. To me, the ideal Pokemon adventure is Ash's Adventure, where you're going on your own personal journey. Maybe you run into a new conflict at a given city, but at the end of the day, it's still your journey to make of it what you will, and that will continue to have value so long as Game Freak continues to try to make Pokemon into Final Fantasy.
do you think that any Game Freak has ever even gotten close to making Pokemon Final Fantasy? Let's be honest here. We haven't had any laughing clowns in the games yet, Lily. Anyway, I love Gen 1. I think it's great. I think Pokemon Yellow is my preferred version of Gen 1, but I love Gen 1.
So moving on to Generation 2. This was a big deal. Game Freak managed to take a game that was already big by Game Boy standards and make it even bigger. More Pokemon, an entirely second region, an update on what had happened since you'd last been there. How did Game Freak manage to pull off something so spectacular? Well, I'll tell you how. They got someone else to do it. President of HAL Laboratory Satoru Iwata came in and fixed their Frankenstein's monster of code.
Not true. That is inaccurate, actually. He came in to do a few different minor edits, but the game was already designed before then.
That was so bad Nintendo's entire team of programmers couldn't decipher it, let alone fix it. But thankfully, someone competent was in the office, and so we got to experience the best pair of Game Boy games to ever exist. Or
inaccurate, Lily. The games weren't that bad. It's a mistranslation of what they actually said. He did help maybe with a couple of things, but like not the whole game. The game was already finalized before you even got a look at it. Oh my goodness. Misinformation. We're already up to a great start.
Are they? Let's dive right in. Right from the start, the forced tutorials are slowly creeping their ways in, because when you tell your mother you already know what the Pokegear is, she just explains it to you anyway, but in a way that suggests she's asking you to show her how to use it. She's sneaky, that mother of mine. Anyway, I chose Chikorita, because it's correct. Bulky Pokemon do really well in these early games, and Chikorita gets early access to Reflect and Synthesis, two very potent moves. Reflect especially because 3 out of 5 grass weaknesses are physical, and so Reflect neutralizes their damage. Couple that with Meganium's naturally high defensive stats, and you have a good all-rounder Pokemon. The introduction...
I do like Meganium. I can't argue with Lily on that one. I do love Meganium. And it's not the best... And yeah, there's other Game Boy Color games that they're better. I do love Gold and Silver, and Crystal, but they are better Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games. Anyway.
For Generation 2 is a lot longer than Generation 1 was. Not only do you have to walk farther, but there's just more dialogue overall. We talk about Pokemon games becoming handholdy as if it was some major shift, but as you're going to see, each game slowly becomes more and more directed and structured. After all that, I fight my rival, go back to...
Lily, do you not like talking to people in games? Do you not like hearing what they have to say? Do you not like, if yeah, you're on an adventure, sure, but don't you want to talk to the characters? Explore the world? Like, Lily, that's a major component of Pokemon. Anyway. Yes, I do have a grass preference. I was debating showing that grass preference in this stream, but I realized I would be very burned out if I brought that component into this stream, if you catch my drift about grass and fire, one might say. Anyway.
Name him. Now, I think Silver is one of the less interesting rivals. He's just an edgy, sore loser who slags off everyone around him and talks about how great...
No. Silver is one of the best rivals in Pokemon. He is great. He is fantastic. He is great. He is the edgiest edger to ever edge. He is fantastic. He has a great background, a really interesting set of lore that connects him to the deeper Pokemon mythos. His introduction is unorthodox. You find him running away from the scene of the crime. Like, yeah, okay, you are a little... by the time you face Silver, you are already at an advantage because he's at level 5, you're at level, 7 or 8. Silver's great. Silver is fantastic. Okay, let's continue. And his arc is fantastic too. His arc is more extreme than Blue's. Blue goes from cocky little snot to very more self-reflective, mature, actually emotionally intimate character. Silver goes from having a bone to pick with the world to becoming a more mellow person, self-reflective, healing through your rivalry. He grows as you grow, and that's something that a great rivalry has, when both parties are shown to develop. That is the component of later rivalries that I like. You see the rival grow in conjunction with you, whereas with Blue, most of his growth is between Gen 1 and Gen 2, and that's compelling, that's interesting, and it's good. He's a great antagonist, but Silver is a great rival in that sense. Anyway.
Strong and special he is, all the while getting bodied every time you see him. He reminds me too much of Hop, just with a worse attitude. He's a loser and an edgelord. Actually, since I'm here, when you first beat your rival, he says, "My name's question mark, question mark, question mark." And I want to know, when you first played this game, did you name him question mark, question mark, question mark? I mean, technically that's his name. It's a weird fucking name, but it is his name. In the remakes, they changed that to you seeing his trainer card and not specifying his name, but here... your parents never even gave you a chance, did they? No matter, I'll correct that mistake. I'll give him a name that suits the pathetic loser he truly is. So I named him Kyle Ron. On Route 29, I snagged a Caterpie, which would also become a front runner of my team, like the last time. And in fact, I set the challenge for myself that I was...
Wait, is that a Kylo Ren joke? Just name him Kylo Ren? Okay, okay, Lily, I'll give you that. That was funny.
To beat Whitney with only a Butterfree. I also snagged a Geodude because I feel like having a rocky girl on my team. I never used Geodude before, this might be fun. The first thing I did in Violet City was head right to Sprout Tower. It's the first major dungeon, and it's actually a pretty good one. Like with Rock Tunnel, it's a fixed linear path to your destination with plenty of trainers and wild Pokemon, so it's an endurance test rather than a puzzle dungeon. But
it's the same structure as the Pokemon Tower, Lily! Lily, it's the exact same thing! It even ends with a straightaway that you have to go up and face trainers in. Lily, you just criticized this in the last review. This is exactly what you were criticizing. Okay, hang on. We're bringing it back. Oh, and by the way, this is Bullet Bourbon, which is... oh, Bullet Whiskey, I'm sorry. Bullet Whiskey, quite good. I do like it. It's one of my more favorite affordable whiskeys, which is pretty cool. Okay. And this is round number 3, for those keeping track at home. I do not intend to go too intense. I had a really bad experience this weekend, and would probably not want to go back to that. If you know, you know. Anyway.
Like the Rocket Hideout in Silphco, it's located in a city, which means you can always double back to the Pokemon Center. This is something they keep doing, and I wish they would stop. Actually, compared to Sprout Tower, Violet's gym is kind of a pushover. I mean, most of my Pokemon were injured and fainted, but I didn't lose. Chikorita and Metapod handled most of them until Geodude came out to finish off Pidgeotto. First badge acquired. And
Lily, why do you only have 3 Pokemon? Lily... why did you almost lose to Faulkner? Faulkner is one of the easiest gym leaders in all of Pokemon. Like, when I was 9, I beat him without even losing any HP. Anyway.
Metapod evolved, and now I have a murder bug.
Who I will feed the souls of my victims.
Heading out to Union Cave,
do have to
Butterfree's
give her credit
bloodlust
for
proved unquenchable as she slaughtered every last Pokemon and trainer who got in my way. Geodude, on the other hand, she wasn't having as good of a time, but I needed to level her up because the next gym was a bug gym, and bugs don't like rocks. I would know, I tested this theory very thoroughly as a child. This is where the railroading gets a little ridiculous. The process for Azalea Town is talk to Kurt, clear out the well, beat the gym, do the Farfetch quest, then move on. And they really want you to do it in that order. They not only put a rocket grunt blocking the way to the gym, but also the well until you talk to Kurt, who knocks him in and falls in himself. But Kurt's broken his hip and therefore can't help. It's almost like diving headfirst into a well isn't a smart decision, but that's just my opinion. And so I have to clear it out instead.
Why is Lily not talking about any of the world building that happens with all this? They're selling Slowpoke tails. They're poaching Pokemon. Now, with Team Rocket in the first game, you could be forgiven almost for forgetting that Team Rocket killed the Marowak mother, that they are dangerous to the Pokemon world. They're having a negative impact. And here, they are selling Slowpoke tails. I know later games retconned it, so it wasn't as big a deal, grew back, whatever. But, that's disturbing, right? That to a kid, that's terrifying. That visual. And it's illegal. And Kurt, who is more of a naturalist, more of a traditionalist, in tune with the old ways of the crafting of Pokeballs, explores this and shows that you have to stop them. It shows immediately from the beginning, Team Rocket having a negative impact on the world around them. And again, they didn't mention that Kurt makes Pokeballs, that mechanic is really interesting. It's a new mechanic in Gen 2, because previously it was just Pokeballs, Great Balls, Ultra Balls, Master Ball. And again, the funny thing, I believe, I could be mistaken, don't hold me to this, I think that the Ultra Ball was actually less effective than the Great Ball in some versions of Gen 1 because of a mechanical glitch, I think. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat, whatever, super chat me if I'm wrong. But I think there was a mechanical glitch that made Great Balls more effective in some cases than Ultra Balls. But with the nuts in the balls Pokeballs you can make with nuts, that was very interesting. There's a joke in there somewhere that I'm not going to say aloud.
The Rocket Grunts use mostly poison types, so Butterfree and Geodude got this. The Rocket fights in Gen 2 are actually the least interesting part of the game. There's one stretch later that goes on for far too long where it's nothing but Rocket fights over and over again, but this part right here is just a taste of how dreary it is. Team Rocket was interesting when it had Giovanni, but seeing them sort of beaten down and looking for their leader is just odd. Team Rocket was a criminal organization. They were exploiting Pokemon for money. If the group fell apart, just join another one. Why are you sticking around looking for Giovanni like he's your dad? See, part of what made Team Rocket fun was that they were a very real villain, but also so pathetic they could be undone by a small child. At the end of the game, Giovanni just breaks down and quits because he knows he'll never recover from the humiliation of being beaten by a little girl 3 times with a frog and a butterfly. Ooh, I have all these cool masculine Pokemon and chirp chirp, motherfucker. But here, they just want Crime Daddy back, and I almost feel bad about kicking them when they're down. Bugsy, on the other hand, can fuck right off. Okay.
But that's interesting, though, isn't it? That's an interesting villain. I find it interesting that they are this group that is in its remnant stage that's struggling to hold on, and in their desperation are doing more increasingly radical things to remain relevant and to get their leader back, because they're like lost children in a sense. I think that's really interesting more than anything else. And it kind of shows the impact of legacy that Pokemon illustrates in these games. The Pokemon Gold and Silver really is dealing with the follow-up of what came before, of Gen 1. And you see a lot of those shades of that throughout the game. Team Rocket being a big one, Lance becoming the champion being another, Blue kind of having a self-reflective phase, and of course, the iconic finale where you climb atop Mount Silver and you encounter Red. And again, that's the other thing too. I've seen the comments. Jog Vodka is saying that Lily is assuming gangsters are never loyal. That's simply not true. Yeah, gangsters have a loyalty. They have, some do. Some gangsters have loyalties. And some join other criminal teams, sure. But what are you going to do? Join Team Magma? What are you gonna do? You go from like stealing Pokemon to apocalyptic in destruction of the environment? No, forget it. Not in your life. Anyway, Bugsy.
Okay, so both Azalea Town and Goldenrod City have leaders whose main gimmick is using attacks that get progressively stronger after consecutive hits. Now, this kind of fight is basically screaming, use sleeper accuracy moves, because there's no tanking 5 hits from Fury Cutter or Rollout, and it took me just a little longer than I'd like to admit that Scyther was a flying type, and so Mud Slap wasn't actually going to work. But then I remembered that means he's 4 times weak to Rock Throw, and I almost realized that just a little bit too late. So between the 2 bad Mud Slaps and the missed Rock Throw, he got up to 4 stacks of Fury Cutter. If I hadn't hit that last one, he would have one-shot everyone on my team. This has been a certified Lily Orchard bimbo moment, because I'm 30 and somehow a game for children is getting one over on me. Second badge acquired. Anyway, then you have your first real fight with your rival, and I crushed him with Butterfree, whose bloodlust was sated. For now. And I take back what I said before. Kyle Ron isn't one of the less interesting rivals. He's the worst fucking rival in the entire damn series. I fucking hate this kid. See, in Gen 1, you and your boyfriend have a good dynamic. You playfully slag each other off, but there's affection and competitive spirit there. Gen 2's rival just shows up, rants about his strongman rhetoric, loses to you, and then overcompensates. And he never gets any better unless you go way too far out of your way to find the special events with him, which I never did because I don't care about his redemption arc. He's just this obnoxious burden every time he shows up, and I resent the rest of the fanbase for fixating on him and acting like he was the best rival just because he was broody and emo. That's the only reason you like this guy, because he was emo, and that's what you think good writing is.
No. What I like about it is that he is in many ways desperate for validation. That is interesting. The desperation for validation is so interesting because that's vulnerability. That's weakness. What you see as pathetic, I see as compelling. And again, redemption is interesting. Yeah, you didn't care about the redemption. That does not mean it's not written into the game. Just because you didn't care about it doesn't mean it's not in the narrative. Like, that's the thing. Silver is someone who is in pain. He's been abandoned by his father, who, again, Team Rocket is abandoned by their leader, and it happens to be the same person. That component is very compelling. Now, again, in Gold and Silver, they don't actually directly state that Giovanni is Silver's father. I believe that was in the remakes. But again, that's the lore now, so that's what we're going with. But we still know he's a person that's hurting. It's very clear from the games he is in pain and he is lost. And that exists as a parallel to Team Rocket being lost, desperately begging for their father figure, their Giovanni, their leader to return. Just because the fandom likes him does not mean he's a bad character. There are stories that the fandom loves that I don't like, particularly. But, and not just Pokemon fandom, but in general, there's things I disagree with the fandoms about all the time. I'm very outspoken about that. But the problem here is that Lily is conflating the struggle for acceptance, the struggle to remain loved, to be accepted, and seeing that as a weakness, which I find very disturbing. Lily conflates Blue's snarky bullying with friendliness. That's not reality, though. That's not what's happening here. Blue is being snarky because he's an insecure bully who wants to validate his existence, to belittle you to make him feel better. And Silver does the same thing, but more transparently, and his arc is more extreme in the context of the game itself. Anyway.
Silver and Hop are fundamentally the same character, it's just that one of them is superficially emo and the other isn't. Fuck Silver. Okay, so Goldenrod City is packed to the gills with things to do. It's almost insane. There are a mountain of daily events here, tons of nooks and crannies all over the place. I think there's more stuff in Goldenrod than any other city in any other game. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do any of it because 16 years of being tortured and tormented by World of Warcraft has meant that your daily quests can fuck right off. This is where we brush up against the core philosophy of Gen 2. See, a common complaint about Gen 2 is the level curve. While wild Pokemon and trainers remain at a low level, but there isn't enough XP to keep an entire team even as a result. But the truth of the matter is that there is enough XP, it's just that it's not immediately apparent. You know all those trainers asking for your phone number to rematch and how the game is laid out in such a way that it's easier to backtrack to certain areas? Yeah, there it is. All those areas.
Lily, what are you talking about? You can just grind with wild Pokemon. Anyway.
You missed and didn't come back to later, there it is. See, these games weren't designed to be played by a progression-minded player who's just trying to record for silly internet video. They were designed for a handheld system that you could take anywhere, being used by children who had entire lunch hours, afternoons, and weekends to fuck around and find out. When you were a kid, you didn't have this problem because you went back to check out the rest of Union Cave once you got served, or
Lily, are you implying that Joey's Rattata, who's in the top percentage of Rattata, is a surprise? That's a unique mechanic that's exciting and different. I love Joey's Rattata. It's the highest quote percentage of Rattata. People love Joey's Rattata, and that's a fun little thing, that mechanic of phones and challenging players. It's not a shock. So anyway.
Explored Mount Mortar, or explored the ruins of Alph, or looked around at all those extra areas hidden away wondering what could be down there. As an adult, you already know the progression path and you follow it religiously. And the thing about Japanese open world games is that they don't really lose sleep over whether or not players miss anything. So there's plenty of extra paths to find, and the game isn't really all that bothered if you don't. Most of the caves, especially Mount Mortar and Dark Cave, are completely optional. You know, sometimes I wonder if there's a correlation between this, my generation complaining that the XP curve is fucked, and modern Pokemon games leading you by the throat through every single possible site and being terrified you might miss something. Where was I? Oh.
Lily, why are you... I don't understand this criticism Lily has. I mean, here's the thing. I love the optional stuff in Pokemon. I think it's incredible. I think it's a really good mechanic. I think it's really cool, and I dig it. I don't get what the big argument she's having against, like, Nuzlockers and all that is. I think that's kind of strange, because they play the game differently. They play the game in a different manner, because Pokemon is a flexible game you can play in different ways. The reason why the Nuzlocke challenge became so popular in Pokemon and not, say, comparative things in other games is because Pokemon's open-endedness is so open-ended that you can be flexible, that you can play the game in different ways and have different experience depending on your choices and the random generated results. And all this mechanical focused stuff about, you know, random encounters, percentage of moves that can hit and all that. It's interesting. It's compelling. And to say that it's a Japanese RPG thing that's unique, again, Western RPGs do that too all the time. Baldur's Gate 3 just did that with tons of optional stuff you can just completely ignore that have an impact on the end of the game. So it's not unique to Japanese RPGs, first off. Ugh, I don't understand her points here. I mean, I get what she's saying. I get the words that she's uttering, but it just feels like they're disconnected from any reality that we've interacted with. Like, the fun of Pokemon is to explore it. If you're playing it as a game, as an adventure, yeah, you're gonna explore it. The pathway from gym to gym to gym to gym, that's there for people who want to just progress the game that way. You can play the game in different ways, Lily. You're acting like this is revolutionary. It's part of why Pokemon was a success and still is beloved by so many people, and why modern games are having trouble with that, because they are so linear in a way that's frustrating, restrictive. But again, anyway, that's a whole discussion too. And I'm saying that as a generalization. There's obviously most of the Pokemon games nowadays, there's a lot of open fields in the games. I like my narrower paths a little bit. I like the nooks and crannies you can explore that are a little more restrictive, because it's more of a maze than like an open environment. But that's a whole other discussion. Anyway.
Oh, right. So I smashed through Whitney with Butterfree, and Butterfree's thirst for the blood of the living has been sated. For now. Third badge acquired. But wait, I thought Whitney was super hard, and Butterfree has a 4x weakness to fucking sleep powder and flash, guys. This isn't rocket science. In Ecruteak City, you can't actually go to the gym without doing the side quest first. You know, just like Azalea Town. Like, fucking half the gyms in this game have some side quest you have to do before you get the badge. Good lord. The side quest this time is to go through the Burn Tower, where I found Kyle Ron, who is looking for a legendary Pokemon, but decides to take it out on you when he can't find one. Dude, come on, take a chill pill. Anyway, of course you crush him because he's a wuss and then you fall down a pit. Worse even, he mocks you for it, but the Pokemon he was looking for was right down here. Kyle, quit being a little bitch. Your dogs are down here. Anyway, now that the dogs are gone, the gym leader will finally go back to his post and do his fucking job like he was supposed to. Great concept, huh? Anyway, I open battle with...
Wait, did you just gloss over Entei, Raikou, and Suicune just being there? Like, that's part of the fun of Crystal, the whole thing with Suicune. It's a great build-up, a great moment with legendary Pokemon. Why would you just... Anyway.
Togepi, that was a false start. I switched to Butterfree and mowed through his first few Pokemon because some world-class intellectic Game Freak decided to make most of the ghost types weak to Psychic, and most of them have the move that cuts their health in half at the start anyway. Good job, Morty. It's even better because you don't take damage from Curse on the turn you knock the opponent out, so I got 2 free nukes on them without taking a scratch. And Curse is a volatile status effect, which means it's removed if you switch out. It sure would suck if I switched out into a normal type who was immune to Shadow Ball, wouldn't it? Fucking ghost types, I swear. Gengar's main strategy is to use Hypnosis and then Dream Eater. He will always use Dream Eater if the opponent is asleep, meaning you can switch out to a Pokemon that isn't to make it fail. And with Hypnosis having a less than perfect accuracy, you can effectively dance into a miss as much as you like. This actually makes Gengar something of a pushover. An even better approach is to use a normal type that's paralyzed, meaning they can't be put to sleep and can't be damaged by any other move, making Gengar a sitting duck. This is what I love about Gen 2. You can just bend the game over your knee and beat it until it cries. 4th badge acquired. Coming into Olivine, we have...
As a Gengar stan myself, I just want to take a moment and a prayer to that poor Ghosty. And again, it's a good strategy, but when you cheese the game, and again, AI doesn't really advance. That stinks. Oh well, what are you going to do?
Another fucking side quest. Jasmine is up at the lighthouse taking care of a sick Ampharos, and I need to go across the ocean to get the medicine because apparently Olivine City doesn't have a single runner or ferry going to an island-locked town just 10 minutes across the sea, despite the fact that it's Johto's main harbor with a ship going to fucking Kanto. Fine, whatever.
Yeah, but why don't you enjoy that? It's a cool element of world building. Like, you're contributing to the world. Your actions have an impact on how the world of Pokemon functions. That's fun. I don't understand why you act like that's a bad thing. It's a cool element. Anyway.
Or sail across the ocean, pick up your damn medicine. Hey, I might as well get the badge while I'm...
It's the main plot.
Oh, stupid me. You need strength in this gym, and I didn't get it. This is what I mean. The HMs are all just lying in random places in cities, except for Waterfall, which you just find randomly in Ice Path. They really wanted you to explore. You get to a new town, and they're like, crawl over every single building. And you know what? I didn't. And now I have to do the fucking walk of shame all the way back to Olivine. Whatever, I got it, and now we're back properly this time. Most of Chuck's Pokemon are fighting type, which means Butterfree gets the sweep.
How dare you be forced to explore the world and use random things you encounter? It's like the game's teaching you that you have to look at everything. It's like all that stuff you're talking about, the optional caves. Hey, that's important stuff. You go do that. It's fun stuff. It's great. That's what I love about these Pokemon games. They force you to explore the world in a way that, say, a Fallout or a Skyrim, even though those games are very open world and very open-ended, they don't force you to explore the same way Pokemon forces you to explore. In Skyrim, you can just explore and you'll find random things and new openings and all that stuff. And it's great. You create your own game experience. That's really fun. With Pokemon, though, especially the early games, you had to explore and find just random stuff around you to progress. And that's fun. I do love the element of early Pokemon that I feel modern Pokemon is kind of simplified on. Anyway.
Oh, that's not good. It's alright, Togepi's got it, and Primeape is down. I sent out Bayleaf against Poliwrath, but I kept getting stuck in a loop of sleep, Mind Reader, and sleep again. Wake up, you damn plant dog! Switching out wasn't good either because Poliwrath was faster and would just keep doing the loop of Mind Reader and Hypnosis. In better games, you can loop AI to your advantage. Here it just fucks you over, and he keeps using Hypnosis. Whatever.
In better games, the AI isn't as effective at beating you. Lily. Why do you want the game to be easier? You gotta think a little bit about this. You gotta say, okay, this isn't working. Let me find a new solution. Come on.
I decided to take the coward's way out, and that was to keep healing until he ran out of power points. By some miracle, bringing out Bayleaf again got him to miss twice with hypnosis. Nice! But then he hit me with the third one. Aww. But eventually I won the stalling war because Bayleaf is bulky as shit, and definitely not because I had him hooked up to an IV full of potions. 5th badge acquired. So I got the medicine to Amphi and convinced Jasmine to do her job, and so we're right back into another gym battle. This is where the game falls apart a bit. You see, once you finish Ekritique City, you have the choice of where to go next. You can do the Olivine, Cianwood, and Mahogany Town storylines and their respective gyms in any order you want, but you have to do all of them. Because you can do them in any order, they're all relatively the same power-wise. This is that infamous level curve people talk about, because once you reach this point, progression just sort of stops. Wild Pokemon remain around level 15, trainers have around level 20, and the gym leaders have Pokemon in their 30s for 3 gyms until you have 7 badges. Outside of Red, very few battles in this game feature Pokemon higher than level 50. As I mentioned earlier, most of the XP is found in the daily and weekly events and the trainer rematches, but the entire system is extremely inelegant, and it means you have to wait until the next day to actually do anything. This means you don't have to do much grinding for a full team, but it also means that if you're not doing those daily events, you're going to fall behind very quickly because wild Pokemon just flat out aren't very high level. And if you're only using your starter for everything, you're going to be criminally over level. With all 3 gyms all having the same level range, that gulf is only going to get bigger and bigger. You're either overpowered, stuck grinding, or stuck waiting. All of this is only compounded by the availability of Pokemon. More than half the Johto Dex isn't available outside of the post-game, either being locked to Kanto, items you get from Kanto, or areas you can't access until you've cleared Kanto. I know Tamahiro recently put out a video defending this decision as it made some Pokemon rare and desirable through their scarcity, but here's a big problem with that. Johto's actually good Pokemon not being available until well into the post-game turns them into trophies rather than actual Pokemon.
No, it makes them a reward. You have to work for them. Especially when you have to deal with the whole other Kanto region. Or Red. Or competitive play. Like, you shouldn't get the good things at the start of the game. You should have to earn them, work for them. If you got good Pokemon in plethora early in the game, they wouldn't be special. They wouldn't be an accomplishment getting. Also, Lily, your team is 4 levels below Chuck. All right? Grinding is the way to win in Pokemon. Also, you completely ignored the Suicune quest, which in Crystal is one of the big selling points of Crystal with... Anyway.
You get a Misdreavus, there is nothing left to do. Once you get a Houndour, you're 95% of the way through the post-game with only Red in your way. Same with Larvitar. So many actually good Pokemon stuck in a part of the game where once you get them, there is nothing left to actually do with them other than erase them by starting a new game. This might sound fine for trophy hunters out there, but if you're someone for whom, say, Houndoom is your favorite Pokemon, this is actually garbage design. Sure, it might make Houndoom...
It's not garbage design. You have to work for it. And you can get Houndoom early. Come on.
More special and exclusive and give it more value to make it so rare, but is that fun? No,
Yes.
It's not. And value can fuck off if it makes the game less fun. This is why only pathetic sacks of shit think shiny Pokemon have any actual value. They're such a pain in the ass.
Because it's fun to get. It's something different. That's a trial to explore. And when it happens, it's so cool. Oh my goodness.
To get that most people just won't bother, and not bothering is the smart decision. Value is entirely subjective, and while you might need scarcity to make Tyranitar more valuable, people for whom Tyranitar is their favorite Pokemon aren't so capitalist in mindset, and artificially depriving them of their favorite Pokemon is actually the worst decision a Pokemon game could ever make.
Capitalist mindset? No, it's because they're in a certain region of the game designed around their typing, right? Their typing is, they are located in area, like that's why you go to the power plant to get electric Pokemon. That's why Mount Silver has all the very advanced, unusual, powerful Pokemon. It's the place where the most powerful Pokemon are. That's why Dratini is in the Dragon's Den, or Dragon's Cave, whatever. That's why the Red Gyarados is in the Lake of Rage. The typing is unique. That's why the Unknown are all in the ruins of Alph. They put Pokemon in locations that are unique to their type to A, connect to the world building, B, make it a reward to find it, and C, give you a chance to really explore these powerful Pokemon. That's why legendaries like Mewtwo or Lugia or Rayquaza, they're at the end of the game because they are so powerful that if you got them that early, you would cheese everything. And they're meant to be a fun thing that you get as a token of your victory. And again, Lily, the game gives you powerful Pokemon early on that you're just neglecting, like Suicune. Oh my goodness.
No, I would hate it if a Pokemon game withheld Gardevoir from me until the post-game, and several of them have done just that. When you have a game series like this where the actual value of individual Pokemon is so subjective, artificially withholding many of those Pokemon is just punishing the people who dare to actually like them. Just for comparison, there is a series of ROM hacks made by Drayano that increase the difficulty of the Pokemon games, but also make every Pokemon available. And just looking at a single route, there's such a huge variety of Pokemon in each area. Look at how many Pokemon are on Route 30 in Sacred Gold alone. There is no universe where this isn't better. Having all that variety, being able to make a...
Let's actually look a second there.
Actually withholding many of those Pokemon is just punishing the people who dare to actually like them. Just for comparison, there is a series of ROM hacks made by Drayano that increase the difficulty of the Pokemon games, but also make every Pokemon available. And just...
Okay. Geodude, Spearow, Spoink, Swablu, Rattata, Numel, Jigglypuff, Fanfy. Geodude, Numel, Spoink, Rattata, Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Houndour, Shinx. Graveler, Fearow, Igglybuff. Okay, so those are all fairly interesting Pokemon. And again, Houndour, okay. Very rare to get. You have to hunt for it. Okay, Fanfy again, same idea. That's cool. That's alright, that's cool. But again, different Pokemon are available in different games at different locations.
So looking at a single route, there's such a huge variety of Pokemon in...
Alright, let's see how many unique Pokemon they are. Geodude, right? Spearow, okay. Spoink, Swablu, Rattata, Numel, Jigglypuff, Fanfy, Numel, Spoink, Clefairy, Houndour, Shinx, Graveler, Fearow, Igglybuff. So that's about 14 Pokemon, and a few of them are evolved forms. So, okay. Interesting, but not super massive. It's a good deal, good spread. And again, they're doing the grass morning. It's all really good. Anyway.
In each area. Look at how many Pokemon are...
More here, of course, but again, a bunch of these are either in the water areas, some are in the Mediterranean pastoral sounds, different times of day, again, like what Pokemon the games mainstream do. And a lot of these are repeats. There aren't as many Pokemon here as you're saying they are. A lot of these are the same types, with one switched out based on the time of day. There's actually not as much as Lily is saying they are. And again, most of this is very similar. And again, it's a ROM hack, so I digress.
Around Route 30 in Sacred Gold alone. There is no universe where this isn't better. Having all that variety, being able to make a unique and varied team every game will always be better than whatever the fuck Gen 2 is doing. Gen 2 is needlessly restrictive in this regard. You just get so few Pokemon to work with, and with how flat the level curve is, it just feels bad. So many times playing through this, I found myself wanting to add a Pokemon to my team only to look it up and realize that I could only get it in Kanto or with an item I get in Kanto. I wanted to get an Octillery because I've never used one before, but I can't because I needed a Super Rod to fish for one even though it's in Johto. Oh, and it's not even available in Crystal version at all. Thanks, fuckers. Anyway, Olivine, Steel type.
You can evolve it. Ridiculous.
Jim, hello Graveler, say hello to Magnemite. Hello Magnemite, now say hello to Steelix. Hello
Why are you
Oh, that's
9
not good.
levels
It's all right,
lower?
Felix got this with Reflectant. You know, sometimes I really don't like you. It's all right, Mantine's got it. Good job, Mantine. 6th badge acquired. Getting into Mahogany
Really?
Town,
Why
there's
are
a
you so
problem.
underleveled?
The gym is blocked off until you complete the Underground Rocket Dungeon, which first requires defeating the shiny Gyarados at the Lake of
Wait.
Rage. This sets in motion the...
Defeating? Lily, you were just complaining about all the powerful Pokemon being like locked away in the late game, and you're defeating the Pokemon that are being handed to you that are like an accomplishment to capture, that are a status figure to capture. Lily, why are you complaining about not having any Pokemon available to you? When you're not capturing any Pokemon, you're clearly not training the Pokemon or grinding the Pokemon. There are other ways of training your Pokemon than just trainer battles. You can grind in the wild. You can catch stronger Pokemon. You can breed the Pokemon. Anyway.
Worst part of the damn game. I hope you like rocket fights because there's nothing but them for the next 2 hours. You gotta go through the rocket hideout, and then after you get the 7th badge, you have to trek through 3 different dungeons in Goldenrod City filled with samey, boring rocket fights, 2 of which are just the radio tower split into 2 parts, and fucking Christ, this sucks. Compared to the later games, it's not as egregious. I'd rather go through this than the 70 billion plasma encounters in Gen 5.
Lily, do you enjoy video games at all? Do you enjoy this? Do you enjoy the conflict? Do you enjoy encountering a story, engaging with the story, beating an adversary that you can confront, seeing there is an obtainable goal, seeing the consequences of this adversary existing? Doesn't it feel kind of satisfying to stop that? Lily likes dungeons where she can go from point A to point B. She doesn't seem to enjoy dungeons where you have to encounter a lot of random encounters. And she's clearly not fighting Pokemon. She's using repels and ignoring wild encounters except when she wants to capture a specific Pokemon, in which case, but... Anyway.
But it is clear to see where Game Freak is picking up their bad habits. Cards on the table, some people like the more involved JRPG plots Pokemon has had since Gen 4. People gas up Cyrus and N as the best antagonists the series ever had, but I fucking hate these two. Pokemon's storytelling hasn't gotten better over the years, it's just gotten wordier. It takes more text to do the same thing, and those bad habits start here. So Lance attacks a human being with a fully evolved dragon.
They're nothing alike! Lily, did you read the words in question? Did you read what they said? Yeah, they are more words. You know what the thing about those words are? They're saying something. They say words because words translate into a narrative. And when you engage with a narrative, you encounter the complexities of storytelling. You figure out, oh, hey, here's point A, here's point B. We have to get to this point A to point B and get there. And as a result of all this, you undergo an adventure, a journey, one might say. Much like the journey you're talking about with Ash. And going about, it's Ash's journey, it's Ash's exploration. Well, you know what else about Ash's exploration? He encounters roadblocks. The world he's adventuring in changes and shifts along the course of an exploration. The problem is you have no interest in that world building. Anyway.
Are we the baddies?
And we descend into the rocket hideout. One workaround of the alarm system later, and we're at the bottom level. We need 2 passwords to open the door to the executive's office to get the real password for the generator, and then we destroy the electrode.
Now, one thing I do love about the Gen remakes is that they give faces to all the executives. So there's individuals you fight throughout the game and build up to, as opposed to just faceless executives. That's one thing.
Breezing through this is because it's really not that interesting. So the Mahogany Gym is themed around ice, and the puzzle is a sliding ice puzzle. Basically, you have to find the one roundabout route that takes you to the gym leader, going through as many trainers as possible, so thanks for that, Game Freak. I mentioned before about the endurance inherent to dungeons, and I feel Mahogany Gym manages to get this vibe down better than
Lily,
most, because
Why'd
it's
you
actually
go
a
away
pain
from
in the
that?
ass to get back out and back in again, so going back to the Pokemon Center to heal is at least somewhat discouraged. Anyway, time for Price. His first Pokemon is Seal, which is actually a water type, so eat leaves, and then comes Dewgong, wrong. Another water type. So more leaves. Price, you're getting your
they're
ass
water
kicked by
ice
the type you're
types, right?
supposed to be good against. Step it up, old man.
crazy,
Sends out
fucking
pile of
nuts.
swine, and I body it with a couple of flamethrowers. No big deal. No Lily Orchard bimbo moments today. 7th badge acquired. Oh, shit. Oh, that means I have to. So Team Rocket is broadcasting a message on public radio demanding that Giovanni come back. Come on, baby, it'll be different this time. So I arrived at the Rocket Tower to find that it was infested with Team Rocket. Oh no! And they've taken the boss of the radio tower hostage. Oh no! And hid him in the basement of the mall behind a locked door and a button puzzle. Oh no! Wait, the mall has that? Why? Like, forget Team Rocket. Who the fuck put a button combination puzzle on the loading zone of a mall? Do you hate dock workers that much? What Amazon warehouse bullshit is this? Okay, so once you get the radio manager out, you have to go back through the lock gate to his office to beat up the executive. All of this takes place amidst an hour of tedious battles with the same grunts who all have the same Pokemon and fucking kill me now. Team Rocket was fun in the last game, but as I mentioned before, they're so pathetic and sad and in denial, I almost feel bad for fighting them, and the fact that every fight is a dull slog only makes fighting them worse. I don't just feel bad for them, I resent them for being so in denial that they're getting in the way of the game, which, in a sick and twisted way, is pretty dark storytelling. But it's Pokemon. I don't want to beat up people who are clearly depressed. This is the same problem World of Warcraft had recently. I don't want to beat up someone who doesn't
Lily, dark for Pokemon. Did you forget the point in the game where Team Rocket was selling the cut-off tails of Slowpoke or the ghosts of Marowak? It'd be much easier for you to play this, by the way, Lily, if you had grinded your Pokemon to a level that was competitive against the adversaries you're facing. Okay.
deserve it. Anyway, in return for all that, you're given the Clear Bell, an item that lets you encounter Suicune in Tin Tower. Could I have a real reward, please? Okay, so there's one more thing to do before I get the last badge that's unique to Crystal. You need to go to Tin Tower and have a scripted encounter with the Box Legendary. Oh boy, I sure hope they don't overuse this plot point in literally every single game after this. That'd really suck. Oh, but you can't just go through. No, that would be simple. Instead, you need to battle the 3 sages before they will let you through. Anyway, I crushed them and shattered their faith and went on to the dogs. 2 of them ran away and Suicune challenged me. And I killed it because Legos are boring. No, really, I don't think I've actually caught a non-mandatory.
Lily, what the fuck? Lily, do you enjoy Pokemon? Do you enjoy the adventure, the experience of encountering something special and powerful? How can you talk so much about not liking how later games remove the idea of the adventure when you're upset when you encounter things in your adventure? Markers of how incredibly vast the world is. Lily, every time in these videos that you have talked so far about the adventure, you're talking about walking. You're not talking about exploration. You're not talking about understanding the world and seeing it. You're talking about going on a hike. And there are hiking simulators you can just play instead. Play Shadow of the Colossus. That's hiking for half the game and you encounter a really crazy fight. But what you're talking about right now, Lily, is not actual adventure. What you're praising is walking. At no point in any of these videos have you engaged with the narrative of these games. You said, oh, Team Rocket's sad. Okay, great. You said, Silver's an edgelord. Okay, great. But the story of the legendary dogs is interesting. There is an element of world building there. You see these legendary Pokemon that you encounter early on, and then you learn they are the resurrected Pokemon raised by other legendaries. There's 2 towers, one of which burned down, the other one's still standing. There's a history, a legendarium to this world. And then you're like, oh wow, well, if the tower burned down, and these powerful Pokemon were raised by another Pokemon, by Ho-Oh, how powerful is Ho-Oh, by comparison? How interesting is Ho-Oh? It builds a tier of intrigue. And of course, there's a connection between Ho-Oh and legendary beasts, and Lugia and legendary birds from the previous game. All of that is compelling, interesting world building, much like how those journal entries about Mew and Mewtwo and cloning is interesting and gives you lore, gives you a perspective on the whole world. It's interesting. Heck, even with Pewter City, you completely ignored the museum, which gives you a history of the world. Anyway. This is 4, by the way.
Legendary in a long time. You've seen, or however you pronounce it, yammers at me about how great and special Suicune is, and now we can go. Between Mahogany Town and Blackthorn City is Ice Path, a dungeon filled with movement puzzles. I actually think Ice Path is one of the more interesting dungeons, and not just because it has a unique tile set in Crystal, but because the strength and movement puzzles are a lot more interesting than just push boulder onto button. Furthermore, it follows my thing about good dungeon design. Because there's so much movement and puzzle solving, there are virtually no trainers here harassing you and getting in your way, and while Pokemon encounters don't happen on the ice tiles, this means 100% of your focus is spent on navigating the terrain. It really does feel—
Yeah, she does just like walking. Like, that's what she likes in these games. She likes walking. She doesn't seem to like trainer battles. She doesn't like legendaries. She doesn't like the story. She doesn't like the characters. She barely talks about the gym leaders beyond cheesing them. She just likes walking from point A to point B. Okay. They're games for that interest. They're not Pokemon, but they are games for that. Ice Path I like in terms of the aesthetic, but it is also not a particularly memorable part of the game for me. Like, I like the aesthetic, I like the way it's laid out. I like ice as an aesthetic, but, you know, Seafoam Island is the same thing in later gens. That same kind of aesthetic, and Seafoam Island at least ends with Articuno in the Fire Red Leaf Green remakes. Anyway, yeah, why not play Pokemon Snap? That's a good perspective. Play Pokemon Snap if you like these adventures, in terms of locales.
Feel like a dangerous cave you need to be careful in. Making it to Blackthorn City, I made a beeline straight for the gym. Blackthorn uses dragon types of—
Wait, a dangerous cave? Lily, you just said there's no trainers in the cave, very few trainers in the cave, and very few wild Pokemon encounters. How is it dangerous? You're ice skating. Sure, you can say it's fun if that's what you enjoy, but it's not dangerous by any means. And there's some cool ice types you can get. Ice water types.
of which there are only about 4 in the game: Dratini, Dragonair, Dragonite, and Kingdra. They're also supplemented with Horsey and Seadra as well. As you can see, not many Gen 2 Pokemon. This is a complaint of Gen 2 as a whole, in that half the new roster has to take a back seat, especially where gyms are concerned. The fight with Claire starts with Dragonair, but she paralyzes Butterfree and then gets in a crit slam. What the hell? Fine, Golem's got this. Don't worry, Butterfree, I still love you. But then she pulls out a second Dragonair who freezes my Golem. You're just being mean at this point. So I brought out Mantine, and looking at his moveset, can you guess which move I decided to use against the Dragon-type Pokemon? That's right, it was Surf. It's alright, I won anyway, no harm done. And then there's a third Dragonair. You have 3. Why do you have 3? Fine, Ice Beam this one too.
Dragon is awesome. How dare a Pokemon game be challenging?
Whatever, Iron Tail, I don't like this gym. Claire sends out Kingdra, who is super bulky and gets hooked up to an IV full of Hyper Potions, which means I lost. I really don't like this gym. Tried it again, made better decisions, and managed to win. But
Lily, you're 4 levels below
Claire won't give me the
Kingdra.
badge because she thinks I'm still not ready for the Pokemon League. She says I have to talk to the Dragon Elders and take a little U quiz they made before she'll give it to me. I really don't like this gym. The Dragon's Den...
Okay, so one thing I'm noticing here, Lily, is that you were making fun of everyone with Whitney. I think, oh, Whitney's no big deal. Whitney's great. Whitney's easy. And then when Claire catches you up, you're like, oh, I don't like this game. This is terrible. I don't like this. Like, come on, Lily. You're doing the same thing you're making fun of other people for doing. All right? Let's chill out for a second here. Oh, that's a harsh sound. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that. Why are you playing that?
Oh, this music's gonna be the end of me. The Game Boy speaker really struggles with some tracks, and this...
Oh, this is torture.
I actually always wondered what would happen if you got any of the questions wrong, but it turns out he just says, huh? Didn't catch that? And makes you answer again, and the only penalty is that the Dratini you get doesn't have extreme speed. Oh no, if only I liked Dragonite and wasn't quite so good at alienating people. You fucking heard me, old man. Eventually, I gave up my...
Lily, you dissed Gengar, you dissing Suicune, and now you dissing Dragonite. You're 3 for 3, Lily, on this one. Anyway.
My stubborn insistence on being difficult and gave him the answers he wanted to hear, and then he lectured his granddaughter to give me the badge. 8th badge acquired! Well, that was an ordeal and a half. Crazy thing, this time Victory Road is actually a road. Most of the route is an overworld area, with the only major cave being mercifully short. You have to travel to Kanto along this winding route through Mount Silver that culminates in a small tunnel with— crap. I have to have one more fight with Kyle Ron, who I'm realizing just a little bit too late that I should have named Hunter. I bully him and he just doubles down. Whatever, I didn't like you anyway. The Gen 2 Elite Four is slightly different this time around. We have Will, Koga, Karen, and the one we don't talk about using Psychic, Poison, Dark, and Fighting. Will's up first, and thankfully Psychic types still have the same fatal flaw in this gen that they had in Gen 1 of being vulnerable to physical attacks. Even better, Will has 2 Xatu who are weak to rock, so Golem's on point here, but his Executor got off a cheeky little Reflect, the asshole. But his Pokemon are also weak to fire, so we're all good. I caught Slowbro in an Encore trap and then crunched his special defense before blasting him with Razor Leaf. His last Xatu caught me at a really bad string of confusion, but luckily for me, Meganium is bulky as crap. Probably noticing that this time around my Pokemon are a lot more bulky and defensive. This is because Gen 2 is extremely stingy with Pokemon XP and moves, and so high defense is the most reliable strategy to get through painlessly unless you're just spamming Typhlosion. It's also why I kept Togepi and why I got both Chikorita and Geodude. Going into Koga, his Pokemon are mostly Poison and Bug. I thought this would mean I'd need Butterfree and Togetic since they have Psychic moves, but Golem just swept the competition. So now I'm going into
Silenzio Bruno.
Namely, Butterfree's on point to humiliate him the same way I did last time. Psychic and Solar Beam. I may have hit a Solar Beam where I meant to Psychic, but it's all good. At least until Machamp got off that cheeky little rock slide. Butterfree will have her vengeance. It's okay, I have an extra. Moving on to Karen, I have a fighting type, so I tried just spamming Submission to come out on top.
Ignores the fact that Koga and Bruno are like returning characters. I think it's a big part of the game, but I don't know.
Sadly, the reality of what submission means meant that wasn't going to work, but it's fine. Togetic and Golem picked up the slack. On to Lance, my second least favorite champion. This fight can either be really hard or really easy, depending on how you've played so far. The thing is that Lance is a Dragon Master, but his Pokemon are more Dragon in vibe than in type. He has 3 Dragonite, who all have different elemental moves for coverage, a Gyarados, an Aerodactyl, and a Charizard. This obviously means you can't ice your way to victory. It doesn't work. Pause for effect. Instead, you have to rock your way to victory because all of his Pokemon are weak to rock type attacks. I'm serious. All of them. And your only threat is Blizzard from 1 Dragonite. Once it's out of the picture, you're in the clear. A little bit anticlimactic now that I think about it. Yeah, so, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm not a fan. While it is ultimately Gen 1 but with more stuff, Gen 2 is completely hamstrung by its extremely stingy offerings of Pokemon. All the fun Pokemon are locked away in the post-game. That's not where they should be. They should be here in the main game. That's how the last one worked. That's how every gen works. It makes absolutely no sense to make 100 new Pokemon and then take all the cool ones and seal them off in the post-game. Follow me on this. In Generation 1, how many—
Wait a second, so you're not going to talk about the Kanto side of things? You're going to stop halfway through the game and call it a day? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Lily. You didn't finish the game. There's a whole other half. That's why people love Kanto, the Johto so much. Because the post game is the second half of the game. You skipped 50% of the game, Lily. It's not done yet. You're not even close to done.
How many Pokemon are in Cerulean Cave that you can't acquire anywhere else in the game? 1. Mewtwo. That's it. That's the only one. Arguably, more Kanto Pokemon should have been locked to Kanto, with more Johto Pokemon being in Johto. In all 3 Gen 2 games, Houndour can only be found on Route 7 in Kanto. That's it. This is a Johto Pokemon. Why isn't he in Johto? This is also the case for Larvitar, Murkrow, and Misdreavus. It wouldn't be until the remakes where this was alleviated with the return of the Safari Zone, but in the original games, you get this very stingy amount of Pokemon to play with for arguably no reason other than making them into Trophy Mons. This is a problem that no Pokemon game has ever repeated. You can still catch the really cool and interesting Pokemon of each generation before the midpoint of the game. Gen 3 does not arbitrarily withhold slacking Breloom or Gardevoir from you. If you want them, they're right there. This is an objective problem with Generation 2, and it's kind of wholly the problem. The whole appeal of a new gen is getting to play with new Pokemon. Why would you try to stop us from doing that? The appeal of Kanto should be reacquiring older favorites, not finding half the new Pokemon you've hidden away. The end result is that some Pokemon will never be on someone's team because you just can't get them. This is a problem in every generation, but Gen 2 is the worst offender here, and I think that's significant enough to warrant a very harsh criticism. It is because of that, Gen 2 does not even come close to eclipsing its predecessor. It might be the only flaw with the generation, but it is a big one.
Lily, you don't capture any Pokemon anyway. Who cares what you think about that? You don't capture anything. Your team was the same team from the very beginning of the game. You didn't get Gyarados. You didn't get Suicune. You got 3 or 4 Pokemon at the beginning of the game, and maybe you got 2 others to add to your rotation, and that's it. Why do you care if you can't get a Pokemon until later on? You weren't going to capture them anyway. This criticism is so ridiculous from you specifically because you didn't get anything. You didn't use the same 4 6 Pokemon from the start, and that's it. Heck, you didn't even capture Togepi. They gave that one to you. Fucking ridiculous.
And it's telling that this was not something they would ever repeat.
All right, so for the record, I'm going to stop this stream after Gen 3. I don't know if I can go on past this. If people enjoy this, I'll do a part 2 and go from Gen 4 onward. But for my sanity and my liver, we're going to stop at Gen 3 after Gen 3 ends. So we're going to do this part, and then it'll probably be about 3 hours in total. So hopefully, we'll see.
I'm a kid of the 90s, so I grew up with the very first Pokemon games, but Generation 3 and Hoenn remains to this day my all-time favorite gen. It introduced many of my favorite characters, it has the best written story, it has some of the most beautiful locales of any region.
The best written story? Oh, sure. What team do you side with? The team that wants to drown the Earth or dry out the Earth?
Especially as this was before the DS brought in the washed out pastels and jaggy 3D models of Gen 4 and 5. And it introduced many Pokemon that remain among my favorites to this very day. Generation 3 is something of a...
Oh, you like Gardevoir, don't you? You're one of those. Okay.
Controversial gen. Some people adore it, some people hate it, and others correctly identify it as the starting point for many things about Pokemon that have annoyed people in later years. But let's dive in, shall we? This one opens with a more elongated opening sequence where you get out of the truck, fix your clock, and talk to the misogynistic neighbor boy before being able to choose your Pokemon. This shit's getting longer every game, I fucking swear. And this little bitch is really condescending. I'm actually surprised by just how casually sexist he is. What, are you streaming a debate over there, Brendan? Wait, his name is Brendan? Finally, I get to compete against my wife's boyfriend. Man, he'll be pissed to find out they let Christy Golden write his dialogue. Oh wait, that's what he was doing, his Sylvanas live stream. I'll be honest, I actually like Brendan more than Silver. I think Brendan is one of my favorite rivals because while he is casually sexist, he's not trying super hard to be your friend or trying super hard to slag you off. Sure, his sexism does irritate me, but in a good way, where it's all the more fun to beat his Pokemon into the dirt, and he gets salty when he loses later on, which is just great. And it's probably Birch's fault he's like this anyway. I eventually found Professor Birch being savaged by a raccoon, and understandable, those things have rabies, you need to kill him on sight. So to do that, I chose Trico, because it's correct. And then Birch says that I pulled it off with aplomb. Aplomb? Well, that's just charming dialogue. Anyway, he tells me I should go meet my Metamor, and I already have. He's a much nicer guy than Nintendo seems to think he is. Seriously, Poet, you don't deserve this shit you're getting from me. So he challenges me to a fight, and it's no contest because...
Okay, so I do like the opening of Gen 3. The Hoenn opening is really cool. It's an active instance. Your emotion, there's narrative that's introduced to you early on. I do like how Hoenn introduces the game. It's quite cool. Brandon is boring, though. He is boring as a... He is one of my least favorite rivals, especially compared to Wally. Wally, right? That's the sick kid's name? I really like Wally as a rival more than Brendan, because Wally you see grow. You see his progress. I think with rivals, the ones that I like the most have the most clear arc. I don't just like beating them, I like seeing them grow alongside me as a player. I think that's what I resonate with personally. I like Gen 3 though. Gen 3 is good. I like Gen 2 a little more because it's bigger, and because Lily, you skipped half the game. Lily, you skipped half of it. But I digress.
Because I went and bought 5 potions before the fight because honor means nothing to a corpse, and so Birch gave me a Pokedex and tells me to go fill it, and so far so stand. Come on, Trico, we're going on an adventure.
I do hate how
as soon
she
as I
loves
catch
grass
myself a
types, 'cause my
baby,
favorite.
if you thought I wasn't going to, you don't
love
know me
grass.
very well. I named her G. Okay, so one problem with the Gen 3 games is that the routes are either really, really long.
Hang on a second. Was that just a... Did we just see a piece of fan art with Lily and a God of War where it's... Okay, well, I guess I know what she would do in the Smash or Pass game I almost did.
Or really, really short. The next town is always either 5 steps over or way off in Russia. The older games had this problem too, but it's a while until you reach the properly long routes. 3 badges in, actually. The other games had Mount Moon, Union Cave, Viridian, and Ilex Forest all before your 3rd badge. The most Gen 3 has is a bridge. It's a nice bridge, I'll give you that. Anyway, I get to Petalburg and talk to my dad. Hey dad, been a while. As you can see, I changed my entire gender. He gives me this small, sickly boy named Wally and asks me to teach him how to catch Pokemon. I think this might be the most elegant implementation of the catching tutorial. Now you're the more experienced trainer helping the kid. That's very wholesome. I love Wally. Also, he catches a Ralts. The boy has good taste. That is the friend Pokemon. So I took G out for some training, and some world-class intellect decided that Ralts doesn't learn Confusion until level 6, so I have to switch train the way there. It's alright, I have a Gecko. Also, those rich kids can fuck off. It's here we meet our first Team Aqua Grunt, who's trying to mug a businessman. And let me tell you, I was conflicted here. I mean, he's a capitalist. I have to let him suffer. But I can't progress until I help him. I see what you're about, Nintendo. So the first thing...
Come on, Lily, it's just a guy. Listen, Lily, someone trying to function in capitalism is not the same as someone trying to enforce capitalism, all right?
to do in Rustboro is actually run right past Rustboro to the Rusturf Tunnel, where another Aqua Grunt has mugged an old man and fled into an incomplete tunnel. That was a very bad mistake, and I'm about to carve the lesson into his flesh. Except I'm not, because I fucked up the sequence and he wasn't here. So I had to go back and do everything else first. Let's just cut this part out. So Roxanne is a Rock-type gym leader. Is there something about Rock that makes it an ideal first gym? Fucking 3 games use it. Anyway, the thing is that Rock is weak to grass.
We're talking about 3 games. Oh, one of the later games. Okay, I was thinking that 3 games so far.
So... Oh, fuck, I just remembered. Roxanne's a school teacher. This joke was in terrible taste.
Hey, Lance, it's off. It's off. Throw this phone away, Lois.
So anyway, that guy from earlier got robbed again and wants me to get his stuff back. You want another bailout? What am I, the federal government? Anyway, I find Mr. Briny there, who also lost his Wingull. Finally, a cause I can get behind. So I crush the Aqua Grunt and move on. I take a visit to Devon Corp and he gives me a free smartphone, but as soon as I leave, a scientist stops me and insists on installing the phone feature because he didn't before. How the fuck do you still have a job? And forces me to...
So here's the thing I find very odd. Lily is very into the storyline of the 3rd game, but like very uninvolved with the storyline of the previous 2 games. Anyway.
To call the Devon Corp president. You don't need to do this, Game Freak. I'm glad you've got it. Stop forcing it on me. Actually, this time around the phone is awful. Before you could just refuse everyone's number and not be pestered by their inane calls. This time around, everyone is forcibly added to match call and they bother you all the fucking time. Oh, this is fucking cancerous. Why would you do this? Game Freak can never have a normal, good idea. They have to pile it under layers of...
It's to get you to explore the world a little more, Lily. That's why. It's meant to make the world interesting, Lily.
Bullshit. So the president of Devon Corp has decided that deputizing a small child is better than paying a $5 shipping fee and wants me to deliver a letter to Duffertown and a package to Slateport. I did not sign up to work in the Amazon Fulfillment Center. Slateport, more like Slaveport. Got him! So because he owes me for saving his bird/possible lover, Mr. Briny gives me a ride. Because I'm...
Lily, what are you talking about? It's a fetch quest. Pretty standard stuff. Okay, you're going this way anyway. Can you bring this package over? Like, come on, Lily. If someone asked you, hey, can I have a favor? Can you just grab something for me on the way to the store? Would you call that slave labor too? Come on.
I'm a sensible person, and also G is underleveled. I go through the cave to find Steven Stone first, and you'll be surprised to know what Mr. Stone's specialty is. That's right, it's Steel-type Pokemon. Anyway, I gave Steven his letter. He gives me his favorite TM, which is one that only one of his Pokemon can use, and it's not even his ace. Good job, Steven. And he leaves me there in a hole. Dick. So I crawled out and head to Dewford Gym to fight Brawly, the footage of which is lost thanks to OBS's patented "you left the pause button on after coming back from getting a sandwich, go fuck yourself, I'm not going to highlight that at all and leave you looking like a liar" technology. But just rest assured that it was a suitably amazing fight that I definitely didn't lose to 4 times. Don't type that fucking comment. So I arrive in Slateport City and fight my way through the beach full of tourists, demanding I have a Pokemon battle with them and insisting I give them my number. I arrive at the Marine office only to be told that Captain Stern went to the museum. So I go to the museum and find that Aqua's milling about. Oh, well, that's definitely not a good sign. So when I go to give Captain Stern the Sea Pearl, I mean the Devon part, sorry, I thought it was in a more chaotic story for a second, Aqua shows up and tries to convince me to go party with them. Sir, I am not that kind of girl. So I crush them, and Archie shows up and calls his own men simps for losing to a child. Sir, that's a combination.
So, okay, so let's take a pause right here because a lot's going on. Lily is at this moment just summarizing the game. And in a way that doesn't really explore the mechanics of the game. She's just saying, I went here, went here, went here, went here. And what's very strange to me with this whole respect is how different it is from the previous game. She's not complaining about anything. She's also not discussing anything. She's just summarizing, which is surprisingly underwhelming, actually. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed so far from her coverage of Gen 3. She's not really exploring the mechanics yet. I'm sure that will change, considering there is still 20 minutes of footage left. But let's see what she does.
Of words I don't much care for.
Graham.
Archie thinks I'm part of Team Magma, which I found quite insulting, honestly. Do I look like I hang out in a volcano to you? On second thought, don't answer that. He says I will rue the day I stood in the way of his plans, and then just gives up and leaves. What a good sport. I find the Aqua Grunt I beat up in the forest in Rusturf Tunnel, and he's apparently so traumatized he gives me a free TM and begs me not to hurt him. Did I just mug that guy? I run into Birch on the next route, who asks where Brendan is. Well, in my experience, he's either with my wife or writing Supercorp fanfiction. Love you, poet. Please don't fuck with me. I will cry. Actually, I found him further along the route, so apparently Birch wasn't even looking very hard. Anyway, I crushed him. Okay, he crushed me. But I crushed him the second time, and G evolved into a slightly bigger child. So I spent some time training my Pokemon in the...
Lily, the fact that you just showed fan art of you seducing a God of War, and you're saying the child grew into a slightly larger child is concerning. Where this is going? Please don't go with I think you're going with this, Lily. Okay.
Road between Mauville and Verdanturf, because between all the trainers, there's like 30 Pokemon with trainer XP, and you're a fool if you don't soak it up like the gluttonous hog you are. But after that, my only thing to do is snag the bike and rush right for the gym. In the remake, they made Mauville a real cross...
You didn't ever mention the bikes before, Lily. Or the rods, for that matter. That's interesting. So this is the first time Lily is mentioning any of those, like, bikes, super rods, what have you, outside of like screenshots of showing like super rods, what have you. This is interesting. Okay, this is okay. Yeah, no. So far, Lily is very weird with this. Her whole cadence is off here. Like, I'm wondering if she just ran out of steam while making it, or wanted to make jokes about like people she knew, and it feels very weird, is what it does.
Crossroads town that you keep coming back to for story reasons as part of the general padding the game with dialogue that goes into most of these remakes. Actually, fuck, I forgot Wally's here and he wants to battle with just a level 16 Rolls. Aw, poor kid. After crushing the dreams of my apprentice and putting him on an arc to train and grow stronger and meet me at Victory Road and get crushed again, I continue on to the gym. Kinda, I'm telling this story out of order. Watson's gym has this obnoxious button puzzle that is determined to make you think you can get around the gym trainers, but you can't, and it makes you die a little inside. But once you actually get to Watson, it turns out he's a very gentle and supportive pile driver right into the pavement. I got by just stacking Calm Mind on G, at least until he got in that cheeky sonic boom, little stinker. Second time around, I tried to do the Calm Mind trick again, but somebody decided to blow up. Fine, I'll go level grind some more, you bastard.
Level grind some more? Lily, when have you ever level grinded in this whole game series so far? Every time you go to a gym, you're like 3 or 4 levels behind what you should be. Oh my goodness.
Third time's the charm, and this time I actually managed to get a few Calm Minds off, and she survived the self-destruct on 1 HP like a fucking mad lass. Gee, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Now don't fuck this up for me. And you know what happened? She didn't. She bodied all of them. Mantrick was a little bitch with the super potions, but I was equally scummy, so I guess I can't complain. I mean, I'm gonna complain anyway, but still.
Why do
So
you
on the
only
road to
have 3
Falarber Town, one of the
Pokemon?
longest and
Hang on,
most interesting routes.
Why do you have only 3 Pokemon this far in the game? Why, Lily? Why do you do this to us? Why do you do this to yourself? Capture other Pokemon. Expand your variety. Like create a team, a full team. That's part of the fun of this game franchise, to make a full team of different Pokemon. Like, personally, I have a hard time just choosing 6 half the time, because there's so many cool Pokemon I want to have on my team that I just don't include. Anyway.
In the game, I decided to take on the Winstraight family because the reward they give you is a Macho
That's
Brace, an item that doubles the EV points you get. Normally, this is a good thing because it means you can spend less time making your Pokemon stronger, but in normal story mode play, you can't control what you fight, and so that just means my Pokemon are becoming terrible faster. Hope you like those attack EVs, G! So the route to Falarber takes you up a mountain, through a fiery cave, and out another long path that leads...
You can reset EVs, you know that, right? Didn't know that? Kind of important.
Up to a rest house, and then through an ash field before finally reaching Falarber Town. What the fuck? That's like 4 environment changes on one route. That's not even...
Yeah. It's like there's a map with like environments or something that get explained in the game. It's like Pokemon's a world or something with different biomes, different environments, different areas that you can go to, and the world's different. Oh my goodness.
Counting the desert, which is completely optional and unlocked later as a shortcut back to Mauville, if you don't feel like going through the rest of Meteor Falls. Remember what I said earlier about how some of the routes in this game are really long and really interesting? There's another one later after we get Badge 5, but this is some really cool environment design here. Almost makes sense that the cable car and desert aren't accessible, because otherwise you'd miss out on this really good route and tons of experience. The Ashlands themselves are probably the most unique area in the entire franchise, and you could pick up little puffs of dirt to make flutes with. Well, this is delightful. Once we make it through the Ashlands and get to Falarber Town, the first thing to do is run immediately past Falarber Town and over to Meteor Falls. On the way there, G evolved into Gardevoir, and now I have a walking nuke for a best friend. Nothing can hurt me now, except
Lily, didn't you just describe this Pokemon moments ago as your child? Why is your child laying in your lap like that, Lily?
One thing of note is that Gardevoir's sprite is pretty androgynous in Gen 3. It's funny how later gens would actually try to make them look a lot more feminine, you know, round out their horn, give them a masculine counterpart evolution. Man, all those memes really fucked Game Freak up, didn't it? Apparently in Meteor Falls, Magma and Aqua get into a fight about a meteor that they're trying to steal from some scientist. Magma cheeses it. Archie apologizes for assuming I was part of Team Magma. Great, now apologize for your men hitting on me. I am only 10. I then have to chase Team Magma back to Mount Chimney because they're trying to make a volcano erupt to expand the land and kill everyone in its wake. Did you not think this through? We want more land for human expansion. What humans? You're gonna kill them all, Maxie.
This is why the plot of Gen 3 is ridiculous. The main conflict is between someone who wants to drown the Earth and someone who wants to burn the Earth. These are both dumb plans for ridiculous, over-the-top villains. I love it because it's goofy as anything, but it's not a good plot. It's really silly. The great thing about Gen 3 is the journey, the environments, the character arcs, but the Magma and Aqua plot is really silly. And anyone who's ever played these games can admit that, and I think that the fact that they love it so much is part of why this gen is so good, because it is so goofy, unashamedly so. And I do like how it's not just Team Rocket for the 3rd time, but Team Magma and Aqua are just playing goofy. Though I will say this right now, unlike Team Magma, who are a bunch of nerds, Team Aqua are a bunch of sexy pirates. So, that's just, food for thought.
Are you infected by an alien plague? Is this the fucking Screwfly solution? You're gonna bury humanity, you trash man. You piss boy. You prodigious buffoon. So after I destroy Maxie with facts and logic, he just leaves and leaves the meteorite here. What the fuck is going on in that man's head? Then Archie asks, whose side am I on? Sir, I literally wasn't allowed to move on with my badges until I came up here. Perhaps you should stop blocking every route and children wouldn't go looking for you to get you out of their way. I'm on whichever side helps me become the champion. Actually, since I'm here, out of all the wordy supervillains Pokemon has, Magma and Aqua are probably the best because they only have a few moments in the story. Plasma and Galactic are encountered at damn near every route in their—
So wait a second here. Your reasoning for liking the Magma and Aqua subplot is because you engage with them less? Oh my god. So like you're not even judging them objectively. You're just saying you like them less. You like them so little, the less you deal with them, the better. That's what you're saying, Lily. Okay.
their respective games, and you often have no choice but to stop them. But I went several towns before running into Magma and Aqua again, and I think that's pretty neat. I won't run into them again until the Weather Institute, and that's a whole 2.5 badges away. And that makes sense. They need that time to go concoct their evil schemes. I shouldn't be running into them every 5 minutes, Univa.
Okay, so let's think about this for a second, right? Team Rocket. There are like 3 badges between your encounter in the Slowpoke Cave. No, wait, hang on. There are 4 badges, essentially, between your encounter with Team Rocket in the Slowpoke Cave and your encounter with them at the Lake of Rage. So, it's okay, whatever. Anyway, and the fact that you're saying the Team Magma and Team Aqua are so disconnected from your journey that you can go for a long stretch of time without encountering them, and saying that's a plus, is kind of not saying anything about the teams inherently as antagonists. You're just saying you encounter them less, therefore you were happier to not see them. Yeah, the worst team is Team Flare. I actually do not like Team Flare. Team Flare is ridiculous, and their whole thing is dumb. I don't like Team Flare at all.
They're not as good as Giovanni, but I'll take
Team Skull's great, though.
Patchy the Pirate and the Sons of Adam as a compromise. So the gym in Lava Ridge Town is, how do I put it? Fucking terrible. You have to step on these pads to go between levels, and the distinction between what's a pad and what's a trainer hiding under the mud hoping you get there before they suffocate to death is left up to the machinations of fate. Sometimes it just throws you in the middle of a double battle. Isn't that great? And the gym leader stammers her introduction despite having all that time to prepare it. Great first impressions, Flannery. Why did so many girls have crushes on you back in 2002? So because this is a fire gym and I have a Corphish, I feel that what I'm about to do to these Pokemon
Flannery
is some kind of war crime. Or at least I would if slung by...
check that. Flannery age. Let me double check that actually before I get down to record. Flannery Pokemon age. Okay, 18. We're good. Yeah, Flannery's hot. Had to make sure. I had to make sure. Okay.
They can get off a sunny day boosted overheat. Fine, Banshee, solve everything. So I have the 4th badge, and then Brendan gives me some goggles to get through the desert. Love you, poet. Heading back to Petalburg, I decided to take the Rust Turf Tunnel instead of Meteor Falls because I wanted to explore the desert. The desert's a cool zone, but there isn't much to it. It's just a place to fight ground trainers and just see this new tile set. But I did come here for one reason, and that was to catch a Trapinch. Trapinch is really good. It evolves into Flygon, which covers my...
So, hang on a second. So, okay, first off, Flannery is 18. So we got that. I looked it up. And many people in the comments responded very quickly that she was 18 too, which I feel like you all have the exact same question I had and have done it in the past. So second off, though, saying that the region of the desert is useless, and yet you capture a Pokemon that you want. It's not that useless then, is it?
Need for a fly user, and also covers a lot of weaknesses in my team. You can't go wrong with one, honestly. One trip back through Rust Turf Tunnel in the woods later, and I'm back at my father's. So the Petalburg's gym's gimmick is item usage. You choose a room that centers around a different stat, attack, speed, defense, whatever, and not only are the Pokemon geared toward that stat, they use items to boost those stats. It is kind of interesting because that necessitates different counterplay. Do you want to go for the bulky ones and melt them, or take your bulky Pokemon against Sweeper? When you reach Norman, he's using everything. His main Pokemon is a Slacking, which hits like a truck and can tank a lot of damage, but moves very very slowly. I fought like a dirty coward, spamming Calm Mind on Spinda because spamming Calm Mind is literally the best decision you can ever make, and with G being a lot faster than any of his other Pokemon, it was just a straight sweep. You see how broken this Pokemon is? People think I'm joking when I say Gardevoir needs some serious nerfs because they aren't very good and competitive, but in the main game, they just slaughter by virtue of having good moves. A big problem with Psychic types in Gen 1 was that they had very high Spatak and Spadoof by virtue of how the special stat worked, and their big weakness was physical attacks. A lot of them were reconfigured to just one of those in Gen 2, but Gardevoir, again, has very high Spatak and Spadoof, and the ability to pad those stats with an early game Calm Mind. Calm Mind makes you stronger and bulkier, and it really should only do one of those things. This isn't helped by the fact that Dark, the type added to rein Psychic types in, is special. So even without Calm Mind, they can still take a crunch to the face, and with it, it's even worse. You'd think Gen 4 fixed this with the physical special split, but it didn't. Gardevoir just got even more moves, and they could already learn Reflect to curb physical attackers. You give Gardevoir Reflect and Calm Mind, and they're basically unkillable. How bad is it? It's this bad.
Right. But here's the thing with that. Here's the logic here. People say it's bad in the competitive scene because it is not good in the competitive scene. The strategy you're employing, Lily, is effective. That is true. But to say that this is somehow the only way to play the game, and it is always effective, is not the best. Because again, low defense, low attack, low HP, mid speed. You get a very fast physical attacker. Before you even get Calm Mind down, that's it. You're done. And again, Lily, the problem ultimately is that you are over-relying on a singular Pokemon to get you through the entire game. You're not... Yeah, Flygon, okay, that's one example of something you caught, and that's good. That's how you should play the game. You should get types you want and all that. But the problem here is that you are hyper-focusing on and saying, this Pokemon is so great. This is a perfect Pokemon. We have a good strategy with it. You have a good strategy, and that's important. Any Pokemon can be incorporated into a good strategy if you have the right ideas, you have to have the right technique. That's good. That's how the game should be played. But the other players aren't wrong for saying they can counter it. They're just saying, hey, this is less effective than another Pokemon that we use. And that's a valid statement. It is less effective than the other Pokemon they use. So again, Lily, the problem becomes you're taking offense to something that's not being said. They're not saying this Pokemon is always bad, which is what you're implying they're saying. They're saying it's not as usable as other types of Pokemon. And that's what they're saying. Yeah, the Gardevoir is also over-leveled in this part of the game. Hang on. We got a super chat. Adrian Parchman. Why does Lily name her Gardevoir G? I think there's like some fan fiction she wrote where she named it a Gardevoir G. That's like a weird arrow fic. I think that's why. Anyone in the comments can correct me on this one. I thought that was it. And she's done a lot of like weird fan art with this character in a way that's like bizarrely erotic and makes me somewhat uncomfortable. I mean, I know I make jokes about like the Pokemon Smash or Pass, and a lot of people do that, but like, and again, furries, that's a whole other thing, but like the way that she's spoken about Gardevoir from the point where it's first captured as like a young child Pokemon and calling it a child, a small child, and then naming it after something fetishy, the way that's written and the way she's making jokes about it, I know it's a joke. I know it's not, I shouldn't take it seriously, and I should reflect the difference between saying something in earnest and saying something in slightly humor, but given some of the things that Lily has actually been accused of in real life, again, allegedly, I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying allegedly it happened, and the fan fictions that she's written, which are her own personal creations, of which I've only read pieces of, it adds up to an uncomfortable cocktail of information that makes me personally feel slightly uncomfortable with how she's phrasing all of this and how she's talking about it. It makes me feel a little bit like, and again, I'm just saying how it sounds. A little groomy. Little groomy there. Not gonna lie. Feels a little bit like that, and I hesitate to say that because, again, I don't want to... Listen, I, for one, never want to falsely accuse another person of the LGBTQ community of grooming or anything like that without evidence that it's happening. And again, I'm not an expert on any of the allegations against Lily Orchard, nor am I going to explore them, but I've heard them. And it's a cocktail I don't want to mix with. Just saying.
I'm not kidding. This is the single most broken Pokemon in the main game that has largely gone unfixed because most people just don't bother to find out that this is such a problem. One Pokemon should not be breaking the game that much. Anyway, I got the balance badge. That's fucking hilarious given what I did to get it.
Lily, it's really not breaking the game. You just had a good strategy. That's about it. It's not breaking anything. It's a good strategy that has beneficial, but it's not invincible and it's not particularly overpowered. It's not like spiky rocks or whatever. You know, it's good. It's a good strategy, but it's not breaking the game. Also, you have Gardevoir 10 levels above everything else, while everyone else is 10 levels behind. Let's get a balanced team here, Lily.
After that, a strange man asked me to follow him into his house, and it turns out to be Wally's father, who heard Wally ran away and wants to thank me for inspiring him to do that. Wow, way to tell me you hate your kid, bro. He gives me surface thanks. Hooray! Now I can cross that tiny river behind which lies the rest of the game. So the routes between here and Fortree are interesting because it's mostly a trek through a tropical grassland, filled with rivers and tall cliffs. This half of the game is more centered around water, so even the land routes involve a lot of it, and visually, it's very interesting. Lots of changing terrain and winding routes and multiple linear paths depending on what bike you have. And I actually forgot how to get over these things. I had to look it up. I like this aspect of Gen 3. It's simple, but it does feel like I'm on an adventure through dangerous landscapes, just a little bit. I feel like Pokemon really should have evolved this 2D look rather than getting progressively more 3D with each generation. I then found Team Aqua at the Weather Institute, who are looking for...
All right, so I don't disagree with Lily on this one. I do think the 2D look for Pokemon is really good. One issue I have with more recent games is that they're so open world that they actually lose the charm of the old exploration, where you could really figure out interesting mechanics to explore places in different areas. It's very much now just like just fly or hop to the next mountain. I feel like we should go back to some of the more retro styles personally, but I digress.
Actually, what are they looking for? I can't remember. I crushed them because it's just tradition at this point.
Not
a little while later, I ran into Brendan, and he challenged me to a fight, which I won, naturally, and he gave me the HM for Fly. Well, that's nice. Tell McKay I said hi. Arriving in Fortree City, I bothered some of the locals. Why are you living in a treehouse? Are you 8? Give me a TM or I'm going to...
Why you ask people how they live in a treehouse? It's a cool environment. It's a cool town.
Bully you. Woo! Mugging people works! Anyway, the gym is blocked off because something is in the way and I have to go out of the city and onto the route to find Steven, who will tell me, oh yeah, that's a Kecleon. Nasty little bastards. Use this scope to find them. Hooray! The gym is open! Fortree Gym is a flying type gym that uses these rotating walls as its puzzle. You need to maneuver yourself in a way so that you can move the walls the way you want them to open the way to Winona. It's not bad. It requires a little bit of thinking. Really good for the kids, honestly. The fight with Winona was really no big deal. Her team is all flying, so Shockwave handles most of them, and Psychic took care of both Tropius and Altaria. Like I said, G is pretty busted. The next stop on our journey is Mount Pyre, because we overheard Team Aqua saying that they were chasing Team Magma there. Now, Mount Pyre is weird. It's another Ghost and Psychic dungeon, and at the end you can get a Shadow Ball TM, which is neat. But it's a completely optional dungeon that you don't actually have to do. There's a hallway to the left that takes you right to the peak of Mount Pyre where you actually need to go, which is a shame, because I feel like Mount Pyre could have been a really cool dungeon. But since it was made optional, it...
Lily, do you know what's in Mount Pyre? Do you know why what you're saying is optional? Let's explore Mount Pyre, shall we? Let's see what's in there, right? Let's explore Mount Pyre. So Mount Pyre, let's bring this up from Sarah B over here, just so everyone can see. Just make sure we share this correctly here. Mount Pyre, we have some floors. Oh yeah, you have to get to the summit, of course, as you do. To explore the whole thing, to find some cool Pokemon, cool fights. You can get some dust skulls. Those are good Pokemon. You know, it's a great graveyard area. There's some world building. And what's on top of here? Oh, the Hex Maniacs. Those are pretty cool. You can get to the top and explore it. And that's a cool thing. Lax Incense. That's a pretty cool thing. And again, yeah, you can get outside. But there are multiple ways to get to the summit. And that's cool, actually, Lily. That's some stuff that's awesome about Pokemon. There's more than one way you can go about things. And you can grind, and you can train, and you can explore. It's cool. Anyway.
No longer matters and is just a few floors with trainers to fight. So instead we take the shortcut to the peak, run along the cliffs, and then reach a gauntlet of Aqua Grunts that is definitely not the same gauntlet from Generation 1. This is completely different because at the end they challenge you to a double battle. Ooh. And at the end, Archie goes, now I can bring my plans to fruition. What are your plans? What did you like to know? And he vanishes. Sometimes I sit there and stare at that spot, wondering where he went. Where did you go, gay pirate man? Then the old lady tells me that the blue orb and red orb belong together and can't be separated, and tells me to go please bring them back so they can be orb wives in peace, and gives me a key to the magma hideout to do it. And honestly, reuniting a pair of inanimate lesbians is the single greatest mission a child could be given. Don't worry, old lady, I'll bring them back, I swear. Right after I do some shopping. So I run into Brenda.
Like that's this thing I don't understand with Lily. She's really into the plot of this game, but makes fun of the plots of the other games without really without engaging the same level of critical thought that she employed in the other games. It's very obvious she's softballing this game with her regular criticisms. And again, she ignored another Pokemon graveyard. Like death doesn't exist in Pokemon to her.
In front of the Lily Cove Mall, who insists he's not buying any dolls. And honestly, I didn't suspect he was buying dolls at first, but now that he went out of his way to deny it, he's definitely buying dolls. Make sure you buy one for your girlfriend and one for your girlfriend's wife.
Why are you bringing up the polycule jokes? I get like it's your life and all that's funny, but no one cares about it.
Give me a plushie, Brendan. Okay, he decided to fight me instead, and when he loses, he can't take it and says he's going home to Little Root. I just humiliated him so badly that he gave up. Seriously, Poet, you don't deserve this shit you're getting from me. Getting back to my mission to reunite the Orb Wives takes me to Mount Chimney, where Team Magma's hiding, which is a much more fitting hideout than the one they have in Ruby and Submissive Ruby. They are hidden deep inside a volcano that's almost maze-like. It's actually pretty cool. But it seems there's no air conditioning in there because several of the grunts
She likes the more boring volcano hideout. Like, I get it's a cool volcano, but like, there's no set dressing. It looks outside of the little puffs of air and a little smoke, I should say, and the red lighting, it looks no different than, say, a Mount Moon or whatever. Lily really likes cave hideouts, I'm noticing.
complained about being hot, and even one regrets not joining Team Aqua. But as you get closer to Maxie, oh boy, are the magma grunts just tucked into every little nook and cranny. I fucking love it, she said sarcastically. Yes, I do want to fight your 50th Zubat, sir. I make it to Maxie and he uses the blue orb to control Groudon, only for Groudon to rocket into the sky. As you do. And Maxie's just completely flummoxed, like he's genuinely confused as to what just happened. Not only did the blue orb not work, but this creature of the land just took off into the sky as if repelled from the orb, and then he blames me for it. Like, sir, I am a 10-year-old girl. I cannot lift that dinosaur. Please calm your fabulous tits. Well, he wants to fight, and I slap him down because that's just how this goes at this point. And then he's willing to listen when I say there's a reason that Groudon left and then leaves to go chase after it. Very productive conversation, Maxie. Returning to Slateport, it turns out that Captain Stern is finished with his submarine project that he intends to use to explore the ocean. So it's a good thing we brought those Devon goods to him. Good job, Stern. I'm very proud of, and Team Aqua stole it. I don't even know how they got in there. I'm almost impressed. But unfortunately for them, I know exactly where their hideout is. It's in the city that's crawling with aqua grunts. Seriously, you could not be any less conspicuous if you tried. Where the magma hideout was a mess of navigating tunnels, the aqua hideout is more high-tech, with teleporter pads all over the place. So I'm getting Silphco flashbacks, and I don't like it. No wonder people hate working for you. One gang works in a sweltering volcano base, the other gang just turned their base into a maze for sheer...
No, you understand. One works in a volcano, Team Aqua works in, like, a marina. A high-tech marina where they could be pirates. That's fun. I don't understand why Lily loves caves so much, but hates anything with, like, puzzles, teleportation, hidden adversaries, water. Like, I don't understand this, Lily. What do you have against interesting buildings and locations?
sadistic thrill. Because Team Aqua's Pokemon are all water, dark, and flying, Sceptile and G can wreck this place like nobody's business. I actually taught G Thunderbolt just for this. I eventually make it to the bay and have to fight Matt, who's just rocking the shirtless look today. Good for you, Matt. Mastectomy scars are nothing to be ashamed of. Be yourself. I'm gonna crush you, though, so, like, square the fuck up. But it turns out that he was just stalling for time so Archie could finish preparing the submarine. Clever boy, Matt. With myself thoroughly humbled, I left the Aqua Base in search of Archie, and here starts the dreaded sea routes. Okay, so the entire latter half of the game's story takes place on the ocean.
Oh, no. Lily also read the IGN review that said too much water. And she agrees with it, apparently. I'm kidding. I have no idea if that's the case. But still.
The importance placed on the balance of land and sea, half the game taking place on the sea isn't necessarily a bad idea. Exploring the ocean is cool. People like doing it. Wind Waker is nothing but that, and it's fucking great. The problem is the fact that the gameplay of the sea routes is unchanged. Sea routes are, in my opinion, the most underutilized aspect of the Pokemon games. There's so many cool things you could do with it if you wanted to for comparatively little effort. Make wayfinding a mechanic to figure out where you're going, give you interesting places to explore little islands and coral reefs, have interesting things in the ocean to find. But
Lily, you skipped Seafoam Island! Lily, that's what Seafoam Island was! In Gen 1! And you were like, oh, I'm gonna skip Seafoam Island like a chud. Seafoam Island is right there, Lily. It's right there. You could have gone there yourself. You could have gone there yourself and explored the hidden depths, and in Gen 3, you can dive into the water and explore ruins beneath the surface of the water. Lily, these were components that were in the game that you particularly ignored. You didn't look at them. And of course, in Gen 3, Fire Red and Leaf Green, they're the Sevi Islands, which are incredibly interesting stuff. So, again, you could have done something with them in the game itself. Yeah, wayfinding, sure, that is cool. I admit, that's a cool idea. How it would be implemented, I have no idea into a Game Boy Advance game, but you could implement that somehow. But Gen 3 did involve sea exploration a lot. Diving and all that with waterfalls and all that. Those are some really interesting concepts. But yeah, no, this isn't Wind Waker, but there is so much you can do already in the mechanics of the game already that you're just ignoring or have ignored previously.
in Pokemon, sea routes are just roads filled with wild Pokemon and trainers, and they're places where the wild Pokemon infest every tile. On land routes, wild Pokemon are only found in tall grass, and the tall grass is used to detail the environments as well.
Untrue, there's also cave routes.
But the rest of the route is relatively safe. But sea routes are like caves where you get harassed on every single damn tile. They're also visually very boring. There's water, there's rocks, sometimes there's dirt, that's it. The only thing
What do you think the sea is, Lily? Do you think there's little floating specks of surface you can just land on? Just by default? Anyway.
and added was the ability to dive, which should be really cool, but in practice, diving just takes you to a canyon that is just more rock. Sometimes there's a little foliage, but otherwise it's just another path that you find a few other Pokemon in. Can you imagine being a dev on this game, having the entire
Lily, what do you think the sea is?
theme of land and sea drilled into your head and not making the sea routes anything close to as interesting as the land routes? And what's even worse is that despite the entire Pokemon fanbase complaining about this from the moment these games came out, when IGN made the same complaint about the remakes, people got mad at them for bringing it up.
I was joking,
like,
Lily.
They were the target of mockery for too much water. Like, assholes, you were complaining about this shit for a decade and they still haven't fucking fixed it. Instead, they wasted their time making an entire post-game story where you get ranted to about ham-fisted philosophy by crappy characters and then catch another few useless legendary. It's so fucking ridiculous that they can't get...
Deoxys is a useless legend. Also, Lily, you catch Deoxys, in space. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Like, in 7.8, Too Much Water, it is a joke. And also, people weren't really complaining about sea routes all that much. That wasn't like a big complaint. I mean, I'm sure it was a complaint among some people. I mean, everyone complains about stuff. It's Pokemon. They're going to complain about something. It's like with Star Wars that way. There's always a complaint about some element of what have you. But, comparing Deoxys to the Sea Roots is not the same because you ride a dragon into space to stop a meteor versus surfing. And they did evolve Sea Roots, Lily. You can't deny that. You just admitted it. Just because you find cave routes to be the pinnacle of exploration in Pokemon does not mean that surfing is any less interesting, especially when you go out of your way to ignore every single interesting thing they throw at you on the Sea Roots.
Half their gameplay loop right, even after oh hey, we're here. So before I could chase after Aqua, I need the badge from Moss Deep's gym before I'm allowed to dive underwater. Kind of like how I needed to beat the instructor at a game of Hearthstone to get my firearms license. Tate and Liza's gym is filled.
Lily, it's been like that for every game. You have to beat gyms to get HMs outside of battle. It's nothing new.
With rotational puzzles, you have to hit the right pads to make things rotate to make a path to the next objective. It's not bad, but it has the lava ridge problem where you always think you might be able to worm your way around the gym trainers, but you just can't. On the plus side, the design of the gym actively discourages backtracking to the Pokemon Center, which is neat. I always feel the gym is ruined when you make me do that. Tate and Liza are the token double battle among the gym leaders, and all their Pokemon are psychic, but most of them are rock and ground as well, so Sceptile's got this, and G can take care of Xatu. And G can trace levitate, which means Claydol's cheeky little earthquakes aren't a problem. Then come out their signature Pokemon, Lunatone and Solrock. At first, things are going well, but then Solrock gets off a sunny day and Lunatone starts to stack those calm mines. Hey, that's my cheap strategy, you lunar bitch. But it's alright, Larian's got this.
It's almost like calm mind is unique to Gardevoir.
See? Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Well, I don't have any physical attackers left, so I guess we're stuck chipping away at Lunatone's health and maybe confusing them. Okay, you are officially on my shit list. I just decided to fight fire with fire and start raising my own stats to put us on equal footing, praying Lunatone didn't knock me out in the process. See what I mean? Calm Mind is broken as fuck. You know, I'm starting to think this is personal.
Except it's not broken because you didn't win yet. If it was broken, you wouldn't be in this situation, would you, Lily? Just saying.
It's okay, I got them eventually.
It's not cheap,
our combination was shattered.
Yes,
all
it's
your
not a
Pokemon
cheap
went down
strategy.
like chumps. It was
It's
just Lunatone
just
that
an
survived.
okay
What kind of
strategy.
trainer relies on one single Pokemon to carry the entire... Anyway, we're off to chase Team Aqua to the bottom
Lily,
of
if
the
it
Yo.
was
We're off to the
cheap,
Space Center to stop
you
Team
would've
Magma from
won
robbing the place
before
of its
you
rocket.
lost all your
What?
team.
You're on this again? You're still trying to make the volcano erupt? You already awoke a giant Pokemon. You're back on this? Well, taking control of the Earth itself didn't work. We should go back to the drawing board. I really feel like we were getting somewhere with that volcano thing. This is actually really interesting because Team Magma failed to take control of Groudon and then just said, well, I guess we're gonna move on to our next goal. Like, they've completely given up on the legendary Pokemon. I almost admire that. The evil teams these days are so tied to the legendaries that the idea that they could fail and just move on to the next plan is almost inconceivable. This is actually kind of neat. It isn't until after you beat them that they start to think that maybe they're barking up the wrong tree and decide to investigate the matter. I'll have more to say about this later on, but suffice to say, I think Team Aqua and Magma have aged a lot better than most evil teams.
No, Lily, they haven't. Their whole plan is to flood or burn the Earth. It's not that clever. It's just goofy. Like, it's really silly. Like, it's silly and endearing, yes, but it's really silly.
Anyway, now that I've got the proper form signed in triplicate to the Moss Deep Gym, I now have license to dive underwater, because the Pokemon League is run by Vogons, apparently. We're chasing after a sailor who is
That's how the
obsessed with
game
getting
works,
his whale.
Lily.
I plowed my way through the Aqua Grunts and then got there before Archie somehow. What, did you stop for a pretzel? And did you get me one? Sadly, the power of the red orb only made Kyogre hunger for the flesh of her brother, and Archie is left holding the literal idiot ball. Maxie comes by and tells Archie what he figured out like 2 dungeons ago, and we come up to the surface to see that climate change is upon us. It's at this point that Archie and Maxie fully come to grips with what they've done. They've doomed everyone, and they didn't realize it until it's too late. I think that's what I like about Archie and Maxie. It's not that they're misguided, it's not that they want to do good, it's that they're fucking idiots. These two go about
valid.
trying to create an apocalypse, not realizing just how suicidal it is until dawn on the final day, and they realize, oh, hang on. They spend the entire game like, I'm gonna cause a climate crisis and kill a lot of people. And then when they cause a climate crisis and it starts killing people, they're like, smooth move, dicks for eyes, you sure showed all us normies. I love how Maxie
give
tells
Lily
me,
that. That's a
don't
good
say
point.
anything. I like to imagine that May was giving him the most smug bitch grin possible. So to clean up this mess, we have one
She was
option, and
essentially
that's to go to
terrified.
Skypillar. Because what do you...
What I do like about this, though, is that it emphasizes that legendaries are not just rare, they are potentially all-powerful entities. The ramifications of awakening a legendary is so impactful that the world itself shudders, and that I think is really cool. It bugs me that Lily dismisses all the legendary Pokemon in the process, but it's really cool that Gen 3 emphasizes that these Pokemon are not just simply powerful, they have almost Lovecraftian ramifications to the world around them. I think that's really cool that Lily's glossing over again, because Lily is glossing over all world-building elements of Pokemon.
You do when the land and sea are fighting? Call Sky Daddy, of course. So I climb up to the top of the pillar, see this massive dragon-looking motherfucker. He takes one look at me and goes, "Ugh, this again," and flies off.
It's him!
I fly back to Sutopolis City to watch as Rayquaza descends from the clouds like a heavenly angel, lowers himself down upon his two brethren who are fighting, and cries,
When I come out, I want all these freeloading parasites out of here!
and then they slink back to their caves like frightened little children, and Rayquaza goes back to his perch. This whole sequence is just me telling on them to their dad. It's awesome. Even Archie and Maxie comment on the fact that he just zipped down and Uncle filled them back to sleep, like, wow, we really went through all that trouble and it was fixed that quickly. Compared to Ruby and Sapphire, the calamity that Aqua and Magma unleash is far less intense in Pokemon Emerald. The weather changes rapidly and you can fix it by rushing to Rayquaza. Even the music it plays is a lot less serious, it's just a slowed down version of heavy rainfall. In Sapphire, all of Hoenn is plagued by intense rain with the sound of rainfall just pummeling into your ears with lightning flashing and while panicked, hasty music plays.
Again, something Lovecraftian about Kyogre and Groudon. That's really cool. Let's go for the
Falls to a Thunderbolt, and out comes Delcatty, who falls to a single Psychic. Come on, Wally, you can do it! His next Pokemon is a Magneton, who bodies my Larion. Like, holy shit, he's so powerful. He even confuses my Vibrava. Oh no! It's okay, I got off that cheeky little crunch. Out comes Roselia, who crunches my poor little bug with a Giga Drain. G comes out and slays Roselia with a Psychic.
Murderer!
Wally's last Pokemon is his Gardevoir, who's already at a disadvantage because Thunderbolt isn't resisted.
Monster!
And then another crit takes him out for good.
Butcher!
I'm sorry, Wally, but it had to be this way. Wally's fight is actually fun in this version. In the remake, it's certainly presented better, where Wally challenges you in a field of flowers, set with his own rock track as a battle theme.
Yeah,
Feeling
'cause
like it
Wally's
was ripped
arc is
right out of
cool.
those 90s tournament cartoons. I love it. But unfortunately, they made it easier. His Pokemon team is exactly the same despite the mechanical changes between Gen 3 and Gen 6. And for some reason, Wally's Gardevoir is replaced with a Gallade. Okay, like, but why though? You changed nothing else about his team. Why did you make this change? I mean, I know why. Wally's Gardevoir was always male, and the fact that Gardevoir can be male was a point of contention among some very sad people, and has always been the subject of exactly 2 jokes played on repeat for almost 20 years. This was the only reason Gallade was even added in Gen 4, and Game Freak has been taking this way too personally ever since. Pokemon fandom has always had this...
No, the reason is because it fits his character arc better. Like that's kind of Wally becoming like a knight figure as opposed to because Gardevoir is more of a beautiful, elegant psychic figure, whereas Lily, it's not the sexism, it's the fact that this is what represents Wally. This is what represents him at his peak of his character arc. It better reflects the person that Wally becomes rather than, Gallade's a loyal knight, as comments are pointing out. Gallade is the fighter, and Wally has become a fighter. Someone who fights for what he believes in, for what he feels, passionate about. And again, you could also make the argument that with the Field of Flowers and all that, it's an Utna reference, Lily. It could be. It's not really. It's not a Utna reference, but it could be an Utna reference, or more of a Rose of Versailles reference, maybe. Who knows? It's not. It's not. Pokemon has Utna references. That's not it. But hey, I know Utna upsets Lily, so I'm just kidding. That's not why I'm saying it. It's because everything's an Utna reference if you look hard enough.
really weird
Anyway.
hang up about gender. Masculine Pokemon being able to be female and feminine Pokemon being able to be male have always been a huge draw of hissy fits, but I've always felt it was too foolish of Game Freak to entertain that notion. Like, the solution to male Gardevoir isn't to make a masculine alternative evolution. The solution is for players to stop being such pathetic sacks of chauvinistic shit, especially when the end result is that Wally's party is weaker than it was before. Doesn't the poor boy have enough problems?
Lily, it's not weaker, it's just different. In fact, he has a mega evolution now, so it's actually stronger substantially. Lily, it's not about sexism or transphobia or anything like that. It's about the Pokemon better reflecting Wally's arc. If you took yourself out of the equation and looked at the narrative objectively, you looked at what the Pokemon represent to Wally's journey, Wally's adventure, then you get it. But you don't. You're not getting it. You're misapplying the information here. It's not sexism because they are still male Gardevoirs in the game. It's just...
Problems. What about the rest of Victory Road, Lily? Oh, what about it? It's a cave. You've seen caves before. Getting right into the
You
Elite
love
Four,
caves,
the first
Lily.
is Sydney, the Dark-type master. He opens with Mightyena, and who Crawdaunt makes handy work of. Then comes out Cacturn, who Ninetales makes quick work of. Oh yeah, I have a Ninetales, by the way. Absol is also made quick work of by Ninetales. Good job, Ninetales. Sceptile crushes Crawdaunt, and Flygon makes quick work of Shiftry, and we're moving on. At this point, the Elite Four is feeling more like a formality than the main story is. Next comes Phoebe, the Ghost Master. Dusclops kills himself, which is a pretty good metaphor for how I feel doing this, and Aggron takes out Baynet. I'm sorry, guys, I really don't have any jokes for this. After 3 generations, there's only so many ways you can make, and then I one-shot this Baynet sound interesting. I defeated Phoebe, move on to Glacia. I melted Glacia, move on to Drake, who actually has a full team of dragons, unlike Lance, so good job, Drake. You're a better dragon.
Lily, do you know what you could do instead of explaining how each fight went? Summarize. Or review. You know? Concise reviews. That's what I thought this was supposed to be. A review of each Pokemon game, not a summary of your personal adventure in Pokemon. It could be a lot faster than 6 hours. It could be an hour. You could spend 10 minutes per generation as opposed to 30 minutes per generation. Just a thought.
Dragon Master than the titular Dragon Master. Doesn't stop me from melting them, though. Except Salamence, who hung on like a cheap little bastard he is, and knocked me down to 2 Pokemon. Stubborn bitch. Whatever, we're moving on to the champion. In Ruby and Sapphire, it was Steven Stone, but in Emerald, he's been upgraded to post-game Super Boss.
So one thing I find very confusing is that when Lily confronts a Pokemon that she doesn't let, a Pokemon trainer that she beats easily, it's like, oh, that's so easy. So I can. She's arrogant about it. She's cocky. But when she struggles, she's like, oh, I hate this. This is terrible. But then she complains about people making fun of Whitney, saying, oh, Whitney's so hard. She's doing the same thing, but it's just so dumb. Okay, we're almost done. We're almost done with this.
So instead, the champion is Wallace, who is perhaps the sluttiest man in Pokemon, and that's including the remakes where everyone got sluttier. Game Freak was horny making this game. Anyway, Wallace's specialty is water Pokemon, and I promise I won't make a joke about being wet. Most of his Pokemon fell because G's still rocking Sith Lightning and won't hesitate. Ludicolo hung on by virtue of having more full restores than common sense. Wishcash was a little smarter, raising his special defense, but then he misses his Hyper Beam. Fucking scrub. But then he got off an Earthquake. See, this is what I get for mocking people. But he's 4 times weak to grass, so neener. Next comes Milotic, who is notorious for being able to take a pounding and recover quickly. This boy is a certified power bottom. But it's okay, because I have crabs. Wait, whatever, I revived G and proceeded to electrocute Milotic's nipples off. Then he sends out a Gyarados.
I'll give you that. That was kind of
feels
funny.
anticlimactic. Wallace can't stop gushing about how elegant our Pokemon were when they were fighting. I like this guy. And Brendan comes in surprised that I won. Poet, please, why do you hurt me this way? And then I go into a special empty room with an old DOS computer to be registered into the Hall of Fame. And that's Pokemon Emerald.
I was pleasantly surprised by how...
Lily, you ignored... Why do you ignore all the post-game content, Lily? Like, that's part of the game. It's part of the fun, the post-game. I don't know.
well Gen 3 held up. The writing is as bad as Pokemon games always are, but the terrible writing is complemented by the fact that the main villains are...
Lily, you haven't engaged with any of the narrative. The writing is terrible. Lily, you don't engage with the writing. You haven't engaged with any of the narratives. You haven't talked to any NPCs. You've only done fetch quests with people. The writing is terrible. Come on. Get off of your high horse here. You had fun with it, right? That's good writing as far as I'm concerned. If you had fun with it, that's what matters. Is it silly and over the top? Yeah. Is it goofy? Yeah. But who really gives a flying fuck? Because the plot is fun, the world building is done well, and you missed all the character arcs because you ignored all of them. So really, in all the games, really, you've ignored the character arcs. You didn't engage with Pokemon Tower. You didn't engage with any of the rivals' arcs, really, beyond the jokes you can make about them that were personal to you specifically. You ignored Wally's arc to make a comment about Gardevoir not being Wally's, top Pokemon in the remake. You didn't explore any of the regions. You said everything's useless. You didn't explore any of the NPCs, any of the gym leaders' characters or arcs or anything like that. You didn't talk about the fact your weird relationship with your dad in the game. You didn't talk about moving to a new town or your relationship with the professor or any of that. You didn't engage with anything except for, I went to this gym, I fought this leader, this was cool. I went to this gym, I fought this leader, this was cool. I went to this gym, I fought this leader, it was cool. And I fought Team Agway, this was cool. And that's it. You didn't engage with anything else. Especially the lore of the legendaries, which really bugs me. That really bothers me a lot that you ignored all that.
Are cartoonishly stupid. And yeah, they should be. Pokemon trying to have a deep story always falters in two places. One, it's fucking Pokemon. Their best written villains are two chaotic bisexuals and a talking cat.
This is your reminder, again, Rachel Lillis is raising money for her GoFundMe. Please donate. Link is in the description below. Okay, I'm sorry. Please please donate, though. If this stream's done anything, please donate to Rachel Lillis's GoFundMe for her cancer treatment that she's going through.
And two, Junichi Masuda, the writer of most of these games, can't actually fucking write to save his life. Dude's...
Okay, let's take a stop there for a second. You can't write to save your life, but you ignore the writing. You ignore the world building. You ignore the characterization. You ignore all the subtle elements of each world. You have 8 gym leaders, each one introduced based on the environments that they're dwelling in and their introductory dialogue. And it's memorable, right? Lieutenant Surge's dialogue alone opens up the world to so much creativity. Cinnabar Island has so much richness in there that's subtle and nuanced and quiet that you can just completely ignore if you don't engage with it like Lily just did, but it's there. And there is not a single moment in video game history that Lily ignored that is more interesting, more emotionally investing than climbing up Mount Silver, getting to the top, music cuts out, and all there is at the end of that path is you from the previous game, is red. The moment where you reach the literal pinnacle of the world to confront you, to show your progress. That is Pokemon. Anyway. Also, Masuda is not the writer, as people in the comments are pointing out. Which is a key detail.
It's one of the worst writers I have ever seen. And I have seen Steve...
Apparently he's not... Oh my god, you found a new way to drag Steven Universe into this nonsense, you
Steven Universe in its entirety. So the main story being about 2 brainless jackasses.
Okay, Lily, I'm convinced you have never actually engaged with bad writing if you think Steven Universe is the pinnacle of bad writing. Because quite frankly, your standards are crap.
Asses both competing to see who can cause an ecological calamity the fastest, only to be completely and utterly blindsided by the fact that an ecological calamity is an ecological calamity, is fucking perfect. Some people deride Archie and Maxie as Saturday morning cartoon villains, but like...
Yep, she's saying it. She says... Now again, here's the thing also I find very confusing. You get basic details wrong about who wrote the games. You get basic details wrong about the world and all of that. And it's just like... I don't know.
Guys, Pokemon is a Saturday morning cartoon. There's also the delightful fact that the game engine is buttery smooth. Character movement is super responsive, battle animations are so fast, dialogue boxes are fast. This is something we lost in later gens. The game's just slowed to a crawl. I miss the day of Gen 3 where we could move without having to sign forms in triplicate with the processor. This is also the last game where the story is spaced out. From this point onward, the games are going to badger you on every single route and city, either with your rivals, your adult supervision, the evil team, or any combination of the 3. And this is truly the last game.
All right. Wrath Dragon Knight has confirmed the writers for Gen 3 were Toshinobu Matsumiya and Akihito Tomasawa, neither of whom are Masuda. So Lily Orchard's just not researching her information correctly. This took seconds on Google for everyone in my comments to look it up. This is proof that she's not really criticizing the game. She's just criticizing her experience with the games. And hell, you know what she could have done? Looked at the credits. They rolled when you beat the Elite Four. Did you not want to read that either? Anyway. Okay.
That lets you off the leash at all. It's a melancholy feeling to say the least, but I truly feel that Generation 3's design philosophy was the best. One where a story fits in a way that isn't so intrusive. It also had the best legendary hunt in the entire series. Tell me you didn't feel like Evie O'Connell deciphering runes. This was fucking great. All in all,
No, Lily, it doesn't have the best legendary hunt in any of the games. That would be in the remakes, when you travel on top of a dragon to capture Deoxys into space. Or heck, when you get Celebi in Heart Gold and Soul Silver and travel back in time to fight Giovanni. That's pretty cool. You mentioned that. And honestly, the Reggies are annoying. I don't like the Reggies at all, actually. I think they're boring legendaries. They're dull. I don't like them. I way prefer Dialga and Palkia in the next games, and in this game, I vastly prefer getting Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre.
I think
Well,
Generation
Latias,
3 holds up extremely well. I'd go as far as to say that it remains the best generation of Pokemon.
I would disagree. All right, we're stopping here. I can't do another one of these. We have been at this for over 3 hours. I'm gonna take a. If people like this format, this structure, I can go in next time. I can do the next chunk of these videos, but I'm gonna take a break for now because it has been a minute. So, what have we learned with all this? What have we deciphered? Well, for starters, Lily Orchard likes simple things. She likes caves, she likes walking, and she doesn't like grinding. She doesn't like legendaries. She doesn't like post-game content. She doesn't seem to like much outside of the specific niches that she enjoys. And you have to say that? Okay. Like what you like. Pokemon is a flexible game. You can play it however you want. That's great. In fact, that's one thing I love about Pokemon, that you are able to do whatever you want with it. It is the experience that you bring to the table that makes Pokemon exciting for you. You don't like a feature, you can ignore it, and that's fine. Also, she ignored contests, which is a whole chunk of the game as well. I'm just pointing out that with Gen 3, she ignored contests in their entirety, but I digress. I like Gen 3. I like Gen 2 more. Not because of the gameplay. The gameplay in Gen 3 is better. Lily's not wrong there. I think Fire Red and Leaf Green are my favorite of the Gen 3 games, just because I like the World of Kanto and I like the updated gameplay. But, it's very close-minded of her to say that half of Gen 2 is the full game, and that Gen 3, that I think had less... I think Gen 3 did honestly have less post-game content in general than Gen 2, because it's a whole less of a region. I remember being disappointed by that when Gen 3 came out, that you couldn't just explore Johto or Kanto after you finished the game. They are more legendaries, that is true, but I don't. Kanto's. I just love Johto and Kanto a lot. But she doesn't seem to like Pokemon. She seems to like exploring, but she doesn't like random encounters, and she doesn't like trainer battles. And she doesn't seem to enjoy the challenge of a good fight. She just wants to cheese everything and doesn't like it when her cheesing strategy doesn't work. What she calls overpowered, I call an okay strategy. And that's it. Friends, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We've been through a lot together. And Gen 3 took out day-night cycles. I think the day-night cycle is incredible from Gen 2. I think it's incredible. Thank you, Chloe B42. Yeah, day and night cycles are incredible. I love that from Pokemon. She brushes over a lot of content in these retrospects that it just explores her personal journey. And because it's not a Nuzlocke, it's not interesting, because there's no risk. We know she's going to go from point A to point B. Just give an overview of the game. Give us a big overhead sight. Take a look at specific mechanics. Move on from that. That's my personal opinion what you should do, but she did not. Anyway, friends, thank you so much for watching. This has been a journey. And quite frankly, I am glad I did not overdo it with the alcohol, because this would have destroyed me otherwise. And I have work tomorrow, so it would not be fun for me tomorrow morning. Now, If you like what we do here, please like and subscribe. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe now. If you like this video, I can do another one. I can do the rest of this video if you want. There's still several more generations. Oh God, why is Kalos and Aloa so long? Oh, she went to Galar and Paldea. Oh, that's going to be a long one, isn't it? Okay, if you like this, let me know. Share, like, what have you. If this gets a good enough response, I'll do a part 2. I'll continue this, but this is going to be a freaking journey. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream right now. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the night. Take care.